Hashem Naaseh v'Natzliach, shiur Torah, Baruch haba, for our new Tuesday attendant. You're a Sunday, now you're Tuesday. It's good to see you. We have our Tuesday shiur in Aventura at the Breslov Center, continuing our series on Pirkei Avot, chapter 6, Mishnah number 6. We also have Parashat Vayera, which starts the plagues in Egypt. Very, very interesting parasha. There's an enormous amount of mussar that you can learn from every pasuk in this Mishnah. We've gone over it before. Anyone that hasn't seen our shiurim about the 10 plagues in Egypt should watch them. It's Parashat Vayera and Parashat Bo, because we see how Hashem's midah keneged midah actually works in reality. You know, why did Hashem choose to give them the plague of blood, or the lice, or anything else that he gave them? There's an actual reason for it that Chachamim enlighten us with, and this should give us a little bit of perspective of what we're dealing with. Because anytime something happens in a person's life, usually they look up and they say, why? Why'd you do this to me, God? Why? You should always know that instead of asking why, you should ask yourself, what have I done that's equivalent to this? What have I done that's equivalent to this? What's similar to this? If you lost money, did you steal money? Did you take money that's not yours? Did you make any sur karet, meaning any type of sin that's chilul Shabbat, or gilui arayot, and things of that nature, where Hashem is in essence taking your money instead of your life? The beauty of the Torah is that Hashem gave us a very clear map of what He's doing, how He does what He does, and the way for us, the idea for us is to get closer to Him by getting to know Him through His Torah. Now the shiur will be for Ilui Nishmat David ben Masouda, Rav Mizrahi, the big Mezakei Rabim, Rav Yosef Mizrahi's father, Alav Shalom. Also will be for Refuah Shlema for Avi Mori, David ben Esriya, Doris Bajora, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Yochevet bat Batya, Elisheva Chaya bat Sarah, Levana bat Sarah, Yochevet, Ayelet bat Sarah, Yochevet bat Batya, Dvora bat Mercedes, and B'ezrat Hashem, all of Am Yisrael will have refuah shlema, refuat nefesh, refuat guf. So the Mishnah in Avot continues. We see that each one of these kinyanim, each one of these prerequisites that the Torah tells us that we have to have in order to acquire real Torah is not very easy to acquire. But yet we're obligated to acquire them if we want to have midat emet, if we want to have the actual emet in us. Unfortunately today there are a lot of people that call themselves religious, but they do a lot of things that are anti-religious. Most of the time it's because they're ignorant of what the truth is. Sometimes the lies are coming from their own rabbis. Sometimes the lies are coming from their Yetzer Hara. Sometimes they just didn't check with either one, and they just decide to do something because it feels good. It feels good for them. A lot of people say that. You know, a lot of people make, when they like to make comments on the internet, on some of the shiurim, and they don't like what was heard, because they're the victim. They feel like they're victims. You know, you say in a shiur, God said that someone that violates Shabbat deserves death penalty. At the time of the Sanhedrin, they would kill him. Today there's no Sanhedrin, so the Gemara says that only Hashem is going to kill him. When? Hashem decides. Sometimes He kills him by taking all of his money away. Sometimes He kills him literally. But He doesn't do it right away. Why? Because if He did it right away, if He punished us right away, we would have no free choice. As soon as you saw somebody smoking a cigarette on Shabbat, his head blew off, obviously no one would smoke ever again. Why? Because we know that Hashem acts right away. But the key is that Hashem is merciful in a sense that He has patience. And He gives us more and more time. Unfortunately, some of us get less time than we expect. But many times we have a lot of things that happen around us that we don't, like I was saying before, we don't really know why they're happening. Every single thing that's happening has a reason. The Gemara actually says in the Yerushalmi, Masechet Peah, that at the end of the Masechet, it says that we have to be grateful. We have to be grateful for all of those ganavim, all of those thieves that pretend like they're poor, and they collect tzedakah. We have to be grateful for them. Why should we be grateful for? You have somebody, he pretends like he's poor, and he's asking for tzedakah. He comes, knocks on your door. Oh, my mom is sick. My sister is sick. My dog that I don't have is sick. Somebody else is sick. I just don't remember. Everybody's sick, 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 sick. Please give me money. And you give money because you feel bad because you're a Jew and you have a big heart and you want to give the guy money. Why? Because you feel bad. Oh, everybody knows is sick. Little do you know that he doesn't know anybody that's sick. But he pretends. Oh, they tell, I'm marrying my kids and, I'm going to marry them and I don't have any money because I learn and this. The guy has a business. He doesn't learn at all and he doesn't have any kids. But he's a liar. Torah tells us we should be grateful for them. Grateful for those people. Why should we be grateful for them? Because the Torah says, the Gemara says, that if every single person that was looking for tzedakah was really needy of tzedakah, and someone wouldn't give him tzedakah, and that person would cry to Hashem, Hashem would have to punish that person on the spot. No delay, no mercy, no next week, no second chance, on the spot. Everybody's tzaddik. Everybody's asking for tzedakah. How could you not give him? So now, when a person doesn't give tzedakah today, the Gemara tells us that in Shamayim, the Chachamim come to Hashem and say, Hashem, you can't punish him. Why? Look, the guy that came to him is a tzaddik, but he wasn't sure because he doesn't know him. So he didn't give him much, or he didn't give him what he wanted, or he didn't give him anything at all. Because the last 8 people that came to town were liars. Okay, this one happened to be an honest guy, but there's so many liars that we didn't give him any tzedakah. So that actually gives us mercy in Shamayim for not giving tzedakah when we're supposed to. But even that we see has the bigger lesson, which is that everything in the world has to have a reason, has to have a purpose. The Creator has to create everything with a purpose. And even the punishments that He created in the Torah have a purpose. The ultimate purpose of all of the punishments is for Hashem to scare us so we don't sin. But He's not scaring us like you scare your kids when you tell them, listen, if you don't do such and such, you're going to be punished for a month. In reality, you're going to be punished for 30 minutes because you can't stand hearing them cry for a month. But you tell them a month. Why? Because they're scared of a month. A month sounds like forever. So then maybe they're going to listen to you, hopefully. In reality, even if they don't, you're going to punish them for 20 minutes and then hopefully they forget that you told them a month. Hashem is not like us. Hashem is Hashem. If He says it, He's going to do it. Which is the first thing that we learned from this parasha. This week's parasha says, first pasuk, Vaydaber Elohim el Moshe, Vayomer elav, Ani Adonai. God spoke to Moshe and said to him, I am Hashem. Now let me ask you a question. Do you really think that Moshe didn't know he's Hashem? There's a scariest voice that could possibly be arriving from Shamayim to such an extent that all of Am Yisrael, all of them, millions and millions of people, when they heard Hashem's voice, they all died. So this is not exactly like a pleasing voice, like, oh wow, it's like music to my ears. No, it's scary to death. You're hearing this voice, the whole world is shaking, and he's telling, oh, by the way, I'm God. You really think this is what it's for? He's telling them he's God. God, nice to meet you. We already did it the last pasuk, and the week before that, and the week before that. So it's not like they're just introducing each other. Rashi says, from here, Hashem was teaching Moshe, and in essence teaching us, that when He says something, it's eternal. He doesn't change His mind. He's not a man that's going to change his opinion next week, change his mind next month. Oh, it's a different generation. We're not in the generation of Moshe Rabbeinu. Over there, they were used to modest clothes. In our generation, we're only used to wearing underwear all the time, so that's what we walk around outside with. And people have all of this convoluted thoughts in their head justifying their sinful behavior. You know, Moshe didn't have a car, that's why he didn't drive on Shabbat. We have cars, so we drive on Shabbat to be Knesset. And they have all of these demented thoughts rationalizing how it's okay to sin. And many times, they go against the emet because the emet contradicts and conflicts with their lifestyle. And they call the emet scary. The good news is they're right about one thing. Emet is scary. It's very scary. It's scary enough that if we actually knew it, we'd all pass out. When the Vilna Gaon gave a shiur about what happens after a person dies, one of his Talmidim passed out. So one of the other Talmidim told the Gaon Mivilna, Kvod Harav, you know, such and such, during your shiur, you scared us so much, he passed out. The Gaon Mivilna said, why did he pass out? What do you mean, Kvod Harav? You were telling us about Gehenom, what Hashem does in Gehenom, fire, and this, and ice, and Shema Hashem, and other things, and worse. Kvod Harav, it's scary. He goes, what I told you guys, it's nothing, he says. If I told you what I really know, then you'd be scared. Then you'd be scared. He goes, he was scared of that? Oh, I didn't tell you anything what I know. The emet is very scary. And it's supposed to be scary. Because Hashem doesn't want us to sin. He wants us to do good. He wants us to be modest. He wants us to keep Shabbat. He wants us to fix our midot and become decent human beings. He wants us to be honest in business. He wants us to be the best of the best, be a light to the nations. And if we do, good. We get a huge reward for eternity. If we don't, he says, Ani Adonai. I'm God. Meaning, the deal that I made at Mount Sinai doesn't change. Doesn't matter if it's a year later, a week later, 3,300 years later, good generation, bad generation, I'm God. God doesn't change and his laws don't change. And anyone that wants them to change for their own personal preferences has to go up to Shamayim and convince Hashem to change his mind. Now the problem with doing that is that usually you have to die to do that. And by then it's too late. But aside from that, that means that Hashem has to change the Torah for everybody. He has to take all the tzaddikim out of Gan Eden, put them in Gehenom. Why? They fulfilled mitzvot, they weren't supposed to. Why? Because he's canceling Torah for you. So you have to take him out of Gan Eden, put him in Gehenom. Put all the Reshaim, Hitler, Machshimo, Arafat, all the Reshaim in the world, the ones that molest little kids with the beard and everything, takes them out of Gehenom, puts them in Gan Eden. Why? Because you want to change. You want to change, so he's changing it for you. Does anybody really think such a thing can happen? Logically? Intellectually? Even a person without much of a brain knows this is not a realistic request. People get a letter from the IRS, they get almost a heart attack before they know what's in the letter. Why? They know that if the IRS send me a letter, I don't care what it is. Whatever they say I have to do. Why? They can put me in jail. If the IRS sends you a letter, Shem Yachem, heart attack. Then you open the letter, it's like, sir, we received your tax filing. You start saying Hallel, you start praying the fourth mincha of the day. Oh, they got my taxes. Why are you so excited about your tax? Your wife is looking at you. Why, honey, why are you so excited? Oh, they got my taxes. Honey, you filed it 2 months ago. Yeah, but I didn't know I was going to get a letter that they're going to tell me I'm going to get my taxes. I thought they're going to send me a letter. Sir, we're coming next week to audit you. And you know, if they come to audit you, they have to find something. It's not that you have something. They have to find something. That's what they get paid for. If you make a lot of money, even if you're an honest person, they have to find something. Why? If they don't find something, they're going to get fired. There's no point for their job. So literally, you can even get to a point where they'll tell you, listen, there's a few things over here, let's just agree that you owe another $500 and we'll leave. You owe another $5,000, we'll leave. Any normal person agrees. Why? Because he knows that if they stay any longer, they'll go create more stuff. One of the people, I tell you a personal story, because people like to stab me a few times. You know, they like to, oh Hashem, I like to be as clear as day so everybody knows the source is available. One guy one time, who doesn't really know anything about anything, decided that he wants to invest his time and effort to publicize a bad name about me. Why? Because he says that you are not allowed to look at women that are not your wife. I don't like that rule. He says that Mechalel Shabbat is mot yumat. It's death upon death, no olam haba. I don't like that either. He says all types of things I don't really like so much. Like I made it up. Like it was not written in the Torah. So he decided, let's destroy him personally, destroy his character. And if I destroy his character, especially on the internet, on Facebook with, 3 billion people or something, everybody's going to watch. If I destroy his character publicly, then the message by default is destroyed. It doesn't matter that the message is true. If the person that said the message is not good, people are stupid. So they think that by default the message is wrong. So he started looking on the internet and he started looking at my business career and he saw, oh, look, there is two people sued him. Two people sued him in his career. One guy sued him for $1.5 million. Another one sued him for $1.1 million. See, he's a thief. He's a liar. He's a criminal. He's a this. He's a that. And on top of that, look, the FINRA, the regulator of the securities industry, they said that he's done. They took away his license. He's a criminal. He's a thief. He's Madoff. Little. He's it. Now, anyone that had a brain would simply look at what he sent. What did he send? He sent a filing that showed that two people sued me. It's true. Two people did sue me. Now, if you make $20 million or more, usually a few people are going to sue you, by the way. If you make $20 like he does, no one's going to sue you. Why? No one cares about you. There's nothing to sue. Anyone that makes any money gets sued. Anyone. It could be the president of the United States. It could be the president of UPS. Anyone that makes any money, it's only a matter of time before you get sued by somebody. An employee, a competitor, the government. Someone has to sue you. Why? You're prime target number one. Only people that have money get sued. You have money? Ding, 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 ding. New candidate. Let's find something on him. This is natural course of business. Just by the way, just so you know, if you haven't been sued, just so you know, I'm not wishing bad on anybody. If you haven't been sued, it's only one of two reasons. Either you haven't made real money yet. You know, you make your regular, I don't know, $50,000, $100,000 a year, $150,000. No one cares about you. Or you haven't made a lot of money for long enough. You just started, like the new kid on the block. Just made his first $1 million. Good for you. Good for you, kid. Go for it. Warren Buffett's worried. Bill Gates is worried about you. You made your first $1 million, kid. Go. You haven't made money yet. You haven't done it for long enough. But if you do it for a while, you make a lot of money, someone's going to sue you. It's just a natural course of business, especially in America. A country that you could literally sue people for looking at you the wrong way. In fact, I could actually sue all of you right now for looking at me the way you're looking at me. I think I want to do it. Any of you have any money? So anyway, the key is, Rabotai Karim, is if you make a lot of money, someone is eventually going to sue you, an employee, a competitor, or something else. And he reported that two people sued me. Now, how do you know if the lawsuit is valid? The outcome. If someone sued you for $1 million and they won $1 million, that means they had a case. They had a case. And you lost. Whatever they said most likely is true, because you lost. But if they lost, then obviously they didn't have a case. Someone can sue you for $1 billion. If they lost, there's no case. But the reality is, to go to actual court takes an enormous amount of money. Lawyers, by the way, they all have a very special place in Gehenom, because all they know how to do is destroy people's net worth. There was one guy that was 100 millionaire, then he got sued, the lawyer took 99 million of it. Why? Because he got worried about somebody suing him. People give all of their money in lawsuits to the lawyers. Divorce cases, by the way, both parties lose. The husband loses all of his money, the wife loses all of her money, all the guy that makes money is the lawyer. Both lawyers of both sides. That's the way it works. One time, one of the many lawyers that I had called me. We had a 45-minute, an hour and 40 minutes, something like that, personal conversation, just about chit-chatting. They charged me for it. They charged me $1,500 for a personal conversation. I had expensive lawyers. What do you think? I was go with the broke lawyers for $300 an hour. Each lawyer was $800 an hour. So now, if somebody is going to go to the trial, that means you're going to have to spend an enormous amount of money on lawyers. You're always going to have to spend some money on lawyers, but the further it goes along, the more money you spend. And if you actually go to the case itself, it's an additional fee. Whatever you've paid until now, double it. So usually that's the reason why most people settle. If you're guilty, then you settle for as much as possible, but still within reason. Meaning, if let's say they sue you for $1 million, but they're offering to, let's say, settle for 200, take it. Why? You're guilty. You're a guilty person, take whatever they offer. If they offer you 200, you know that you're going to lose $1 million, take it. 250 even. 400, take it. Why? If you go to court, you're guilty, you're going to lose $1 million or more. Because sometimes the judge hates you, and he gives punitive damages to them, and now they're going to get even more. If you're innocent, you still have to settle. But for the least amount of possible, depending on how innocent you really are. So what this moron didn't realize is that right under the case that showed that two people sued me for $1.5 million, there was a settlement. How much was the settlement? 1% of the case. He sued me for 1.5 million. We settled for 14,000 one day before the case went to court. The other guy sued for 1.1 million. We settled for 9,000 or $10,000. 1% of the case. Why would anybody that believes I owe them $1.5 million settle for 10 grand, 15 grand? Why would you, a day before the case goes to court, hey, tomorrow's your big day you've been waiting for, right? I'm ready. Why would you settle? Tomorrow's your big day. That's when you have no case. But this imbecile didn't know this. He just wanted to report to the people, Yaron Reuven, Rasha, Merusha, Madoff, Gavanav, Unfortunately, some fools believe it. Why? Because they're also fools like him. Then they went with the other one. They said, oh, look, the FINRA took away his license, took away my license. Took away my license, and he's not allowed to go back into the securities business. But what he didn't realize is that there's dates on that suit, on the other things that have gone on, and by the time they actually decided to not let me into the business, I already left the business. I left the business. This was 3 months after we closed the firm. And since FINRA the regulator had already a 2-year audit, 2.5-year audit into our municipal bond business, they wanted me to pay $30,000 in commissions back to clients because they believed that I should do business for free. I said, well, the big firms don't do business for free. How could a small firm do business for free? It's like, well, listen, we've been looking for 2.5 years. We found nothing else. So let's just settle for $30,000. I said, no. I'm not going to give people money for no reason, especially since I lost everything. But aside from that, even if I had everything, I'm still not giving it. At that time, I still had a little bit of money. I'm not giving money for people that don't deserve it. For what? $30,000 because you have nothing to do? He says, yeah, but we have to find something. This is what they tell me. We have to find something. I said, I don't know, break your head for all I care. So I'm not giving you a penny. So they got really frustrated with me, went back and forth for a few weeks. Eventually they said, listen, you just left the broker-dealer that you had, the business, you shut it down, right? I said, yes, you obviously know because I sent it to you and I told you I shut down the business. Take care. Well, what if we sent you a letter that signs off that you're not going to reopen the same business that you closed? I said, well, I can't. According to the law, once you shut it down, you can't reopen it. If I want to reopen it, I have to open something else. Not the same one. It's closed. It's finished. I gave back the license for that one. They're like, yeah, we know that, but still, can you sign the letter? I said, but I'm signing a letter that says nothing. They're like, we have to give something to our boss that says that, I said, yeah, but your boss knows that the business is closed. There's nothing for you to close. They just sign the letter. Sign the letter. Can you sign the letter? It's instead of the, or we have to just find something. I said, okay, I'll sign whatever label you want. Just leave me alone. Stop calling me. That's what happened. You can look at the dates, the documents, go call FINRA if you want, go call the head of FINRA, call the head of the SEC. They'll give you the files. It's all public information. But no, Yaron Reuven is banned from the industry. Lashon, This clearly shows, Rabotai, number one, when you're ignorant, you're going to say a lot of stupid things. When you're Rasha, you're going to say things that are evil. Why? Because you have a self-interest. Most people are not evil. Most people are just clueless. So they say a lot of clueless things on the internet, where they say, listen, don't listen to such and such because it's too extreme. We can't worry about what's extreme. We have to worry about what's true. Is it true? Extreme, not extreme, is not my business. Why? Because you have a biased opinion. You may think it's extreme, I think it's not. I may think it's extreme, you may think it's not. We have a biased opinion. You may think that to have a good time, you have to climb Mount Everest every weekend. I think you're crazy. Why? I want to sit home with my family. I don't want to climb anything. Barely want to get out of bed. I want to climb Mount Everest. But you think it's fun to jump out of airplanes. That's your idea of fun. I think it's suicide, just with a 50% chance of making it. So, you can't base the truth on opinions. You have to decide, is it true or not? And the reality is that if anybody actually listens to the words that are coming out of our mouth, you see that every single thing has a source, has a page number, has a specific language that we use from the Torah, specific language with a name of who said it, Rashi, Rabbi Akiva, Moshe Rabbeinu, God, somebody said it, and we say it in their name. This Mishnah, at the end of the Mishnah, you'll see one of the things that it teaches is that whoever says something in the name of the original source brings the Mashiach closer. Why? Because that means you're delivering the truth without your biased opinion or self-interest or anything else. If I said things that really Rabbi Akiva said, but I said it in my name, like as if it's my idea, that's not bringing Mashiach. That just means I'm a con man. I'm pretending like I'm smart. I'm saying, well, Rabbi Akiva said, but I'm saying, no, it's my idea, it's my chidush. Rabbi Akiva said it though. No, Rabbi Akiva came after me. I taught him everything he knows. So, it's very, very important to always determine, is it true or not? If it's true, the only excuse you now have is how fast you're going to start it. Now or in a minute from now. That's the only thing you have. If it's true or not, once it's true, there's no debate anymore. It can be hard. You have to adjust. You have to change certain things. You may not be able to do it overnight because you have to make certain adjustments. Fine. But you can't say it's not true. You can no longer say it's not true. And as you'll see, any of the people that go against the truth, they never provide an actual source. They just say, no, this is too extreme. No, this is too fanatic. No, this is creating separation among Am Yisrael. No, this is against the Torah. No, this is against Ashkafa, and against my personal interest, and against my personal bank account, and against my sins. And okay, it's against all those, but is it against the Torah? Is it against God? Do you have a source to provide to negate it that says otherwise? If the answer is no, then realistically, you have babkis. You have nothing. So this Mishnah tells us that if you want to inherit the emet, you want to acquire the emet, it's not going to be acquired very simply. You have to acquire 48 different things that take time to acquire, but nonetheless, one of the most important things is to accept the emet regardless of the source. This is why we learn later on in Parashat Balak that a donkey that was the wife of Bilam gave MUSSAR. That's emet. And Hashem put it, Hashem opened. Vayiftach Hashem et pi ha'aton. Hashem opened the mouth of the donkey. Why did he open the mouth of a donkey? To teach us emet can come from anywhere. Even a donkey. So the Torah Kedosha tells us some critical things. גדולת תורה יותר מן הכהונה ומן המלכות, שהמלכות נקנית ב-30 מעלות, והכהונה נקנית ב-24, והתורה נקנית ב-48 דברים. ואלו הן, בתלמוד, בשמיעת האוזן, בעריכת שפתיים, בבינת הלב, בסכלות הלב, באימה, ביראה, בענווה, בשמחה, בטהרה, בשימוש חכמים, בדקדוק חברים, בפלפול תלמידים, ביישוב, במקרא, במשנה, במיעוט סחורה. It continues, but we'll get up to this. B'ezrat Hashem will finish everything I just said. Translation. The Torah, the crown of Torah is even greater than the crown of priesthood and royalty. For royalty is acquired along with 30 prerogatives. As we said, to be a king, your father has to be a king. And the priesthood with 24 gifts. If you want to be a Kohen, your father has to be a Kohen. You can't buy priesthood. But the Torah is acquired by the 48 qualities. Torah, unlike Kehuna and Malchut, unlike priesthood and royalty, Torah can be acquired by anybody. The other two require your father to be somebody specific. Torah can be acquired by anyone that likes emet and is willing to fulfill it. Doesn't matter what family you came from. It doesn't matter if you're a mamzer and you came from a illicit relationship between a woman and someone that wasn't a husband. It actually doesn't even matter if you were born a Jew or not. If you want to have the entire emet, you can convert to Judaism and you'll be considered even higher than a natural born Jew. So long as you have Torah. If you don't have Torah, you're better off not converting, stay a non-Jew, and hopefully you'll keep 7 mitzvot Noach, so you go to Gan Eden. If not, you'll go to Gehinnom too. There's place for people like that. But the reality is, Rabotai, is that these 48 qualities can be acquired by anyone. You simply just have to toil. You have to work hard for them. And some of them are studying, which we already talked about. Can't have Torah without learning it. You can't just assume. And you can't use your logic. Many people try to learn Torah from their own logic. The problem with that is that the Torah is not always logical. In fact, many times it's against our logic. Even Moshe Rabbeinu, the greatest of all prophets, made mistakes because he used his own logic. Whether it was saving the baby that Hashem said was a wicked neshama, or was doing other things. At times, a few times, he used his own logic and Hashem disagreed with him. Told him this is a mistake. The outcome was a mistake. David HaMelech had his own logic also. And he also made a mistake. The Torah does not hide the mistakes of the greatest people on earth. The Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, page 107, A, says that David HaMelech, after the Maaseh of Bathsheba, the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat says that anyone that says that David HaMelech sinned is mistaken. He didn't sin. He was allowed to marry Bathsheba. She wasn't married to Uriah Hitti because he was at war. And it was a law at the time that anyone that went to war would give the wife a get. So if they died at war, the woman would not be an aguna. Because if somebody dies at war but there's not enough witnesses, there's no 2 witnesses that saw the body, then the woman pretty much can't marry anybody ever again. So she has to stay single for the rest of her life because no one saw the body of her husband die. It's a miserable life. Imagine, 23, 24, 25 years old, 30 years old, young, at the best time of your life, no kids, husband goes to war, misken, he dies. Okay, you suffer, cry a little bit, cry a lot a bit, but eventually you want to get on with your life. You're 24 only, you're 25, you want to move on, you want to have kids, sorry ma'am, you can't get married. Why? Because there's no witnesses that saw the actual body of your husband. So maybe he's still alive, and if you get married, technically the second marriage will not be valid, and if you have kids, the kids will be mamzerim. Which actually happened. This was actually, by the way, one of the greatest things that Rav Ovadia, alav Shalom, did during his career, where he verified and toiled for months to verify if every single woman, there was an aguna where after one of the wars, they couldn't find the husband, and he went and toiled and went to the army and found witnesses and so on until he found every single woman, if she's aguna or she's allowed to get remarried. One of the times when he found out after months and months of work of talking to people and verifying and looking at investigative analysis, he found out that one of the women is allowed to get married. But he found out at 2:30 in the morning. So he couldn't go to sleep. So the Rabbanit says, it's time to go to sleep. Can't go to sleep. Why? Because right now she doesn't know. So tomorrow, there's a certain trial that she had, and she's not going to know what's going to happen, and she's suffering for an extra few hours. I can't sleep when another Jew is suffering. So Rabbanit says, so call her. Call her. It's 2:30 in the morning. Call her. He called her at 2 o'clock in the morning, and he told her, and they were both crying on the phone. Rav Ovadia and this woman were crying on the phone, how happy they were. But he could have told her 5 hours later. Yeah, but 5 hours too many. 5 hours more of suffering. That's real Ahavat Israel. So Uriah Hitti was at war, and therefore he gave Bathsheba a get. Therefore, David was allowed to marry her, allowed to be with her, and so on. So the Gemara says that anyone says that he sinned is making a mistake. But still, he got punished for it because it didn't look good. In his level, it didn't look good. And everyone at the Bet Din were making fun of him on a regular basis, to the extent that David HaMelech, Kodesh Kodashim, the Mashiach comes from David HaMelech. He cries to Hashem in Tehillim. He cries to Hashem. He said, Hashem, if they cut my body, no blood will come out. From all of the spilling of blood, from the embarrassments that I have to deal with every single day. That they all call me someone that's a womanizer. They all call me names and I don't respond because I know it's... They make fun of me all day. The Rabbanim, not the losers. The Rabbanim, biggest rabbis in the world, making fun of me. The Bet Din. The Sanhedrin are making fun of me. And they spill my blood. They do it in public. They say questions like, hey, Kvod David HaMelech, what's the deen? I mean, you're the Melech, you're the king, you're Talmid Chacham. What's the deen? What's the law for a man that goes with a married woman? Does he have Olam Haba or no? They're talking about him. He says, if a man goes with a woman that's not his wife, gets punished, but he still has a share of the world to come. But he says, but someone that embarrasses another Jew in public, he doesn't have Olam Haba. He doesn't have Olam Haba. But still, this is spilling his blood in public. A womanizer has Olam Haba? No. Married woman actually doesn't have Olam Haba. A womanizer have Olam Haba? No. He says, no, he has Olam Haba. He gets punished. But he has Olam Haba. But somebody that embarrasses another Jew in public has no Olam Haba. Oh, you like to make fun of people because you're a comedian? Okay. They'll have a place for you too. Warm, nice. No trees though. So, David HaMelech was having his blood spilled every day. Just so you know, anytime somebody gets embarrassed, first their face gets red. Then their face gets white. And the Gemara says this is, in essence, the literal example of how blood gets spilled. If a person didn't have cheeks, all that blood that made his face red would have spilled out. And his skin turns white because in essence it did get spilled out, just somewhere else. When some scientists actually said they looked into this, they said when somebody gets embarrassed and you see their face become red, it's because all of the cells in their face exploded. That if they didn't have the cheeks, all of the blood will come out. It's mamash spilling blood. David HaMelech says, if you cut my skin, Hashem, there's no blood left of how much embarrassment I deal with every day. And he's the king. So David HaMelech says to Hashem, Gemara Masechet Sanhedrin says something unbelievable. Mamash ne'eneti, I enjoyed this one. It's unbelievable how holy our Torah is. David HaMelech says to Hashem something unbelievable. He says, Hashem, I did tshuva. Even for the things that you said yourself, I didn't sin and this and that, I did tshuva. I'm doing tshuva. I cried and this and that, everything. Please, Hashem, why don't you just remove the story from my history? Remove the story from my history. Don't write it. I did tshuva for it. If you did tshuva, that's it. It's like as if it never happened. If somebody does real tshuva, it's like as if his sins never happened. If somebody does a high-level tshuva, his sins turns into mitzvot. David HaMelech did this. Hashem, all I want is one thing. Remove the story from your Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, David, my son, a long time ago, there was a woman named Sarai. And Sarai was Kodesh Kodashim. And I changed her name. And I took out the Yud and I replaced it with a Hey. And her name became Sarah, Sarah Imenu. Married to Avraham Avinu, the mother of Am Yisrael. But the problem was that you know how many centuries that Yud, the Malach for that Yud, was crying to me, Hashem, you removed me from the Torah. I was part of Sarah's name. Why'd you remove me from the Torah? I was there. Hashem, the Yud, Hashem says the Yud, the letter Yud, the little tiny little Yud, it's a dot, was crying to Hashem, Hashem, you removed me from the Torah. Why would you remove me from the Torah? I liked it. I like being in the Torah. And the Yud, the letter Yud, didn't stop crying until I put it in the name of Yoshua ben Nun. Because Yoshua ben Nun's name originally was Hoshea. But Moshe said, Vayikalu Yoshua. Until I put that Yud somewhere else, the Yud didn't stop crying. For years I had to deal with this. And you want me to move an entire parasha? This is to show us, Rabotai Karim, our Torah is not just a bunch of words put together because it sounds good, it looks good for a certain generation or certain types of people. Every letter, every law, every psik, every little dot, every little thing has an ultimate purpose. And the only reason why we reject it sometimes is because we simply have not looked deep enough into that purpose. So when it comes to studying, a person needs to know that he's only going to know these things if he studies. Then it says attentive listening. He has to pay attention and not fall asleep. Articulate speech. If you're going to teach, either it's going to be a group of 10 people or 1,000 people or even just your wife or even just your kids. Make sure that when you speak clearly in their language, not your language. I know one Talmid Chacham, he's unbelievable. He knows the entire Shas by heart. One time I sat with him and I said, wow, Kvod Harav, unbelievable how much you know the Shas by heart. He goes, no, you're exaggerating. I forget at least one daf a day. He says, I forget one daf a day. There's almost 3,000 dapim, 2,700 dapim in the Gemara. He says, I forget one daf a day. He reads 20 though, 30, but he forgets one. The anava of Am Yisrael, the humility of Am Yisrael, the actual ones that actually know what Torah is. But him, he gives a lecture, can't give a lecture. He can't give a lecture. Why he can't give a lecture? He's such Talmid Chacham, knows the entire Shas by heart. Because he speaks at his level. When he talks as someone that knows the entire Shas by heart. So he mentions pages and numbers and this, and he speaks really, really, really fast. And the tzibur, if you tell them Shas, they don't know what Shas is. Like, what is that, a new thing on the menu? What is it, burekas? Type burekas, chocolate from Belgium? What is it? What's a Shas? They don't know him, he's skinny him. The Am Haaretz, they don't know nothing. But he talks in his language. And they talk in a different language. So most of them don't know anything. Don't know what he's saying. But the brilliance he has, if he talks to people that actually know what they're talking about, he's talking their language. If you're going to speak to people, regardless of who it is, if it's your kids, speak to them in their language. I met one kid one time. He's not really a kid. He's in his late 20s. Today, they're still considered children. He says, my wife and I, we don't speak to our kids in baby language. We speak to them regular, like we talk to regular people. He was proud of this. He talks to his kids, 3, 4, 5 years old kids. No, we talk to them regular, like I'm talking to you guys. And I said, wow, poor kids. Poor kids. Father doesn't know how to be a father. The 4-year-old doesn't understand when you talk like this. He understands when you talk soft, and cuckoo, and poochie-poo, and funny, and as a present, and you have a smile on even though you're upset because your bank account just went down by 50%. That's how the little kid understands baby language. You start talking to a 4-year-old like a man, you're going to have a problem on your hands. Why? He's not going to understand what you're saying. Why is he ever mad? You're not mad, but you look mad. Why? Because you're talking like an adult. Adults look mad to kids. Any little kid, 5-year-old kid comes over here, he's like, Abba, how come you're so angry? No, I'm not angry, I'm just giving a shiur. Oh, but you look angry, Abba. You look angry, you're scary. Scary. Sometimes my wife and I, we have normal adult conversation, like once in a year, and like we actually have a break of like 5 minutes, and we can actually talk like adults. 5 minutes, 4 minutes. I'm not going to exaggerating. 4 minutes we get to talk like adults. And my little daughter, she comes, she goes, Abba, it's scary. I said, what's scary? She goes, scary, Abba. I'm like, why? What's going on? What's scary? She goes, why are you yelling? I said, I'm not yelling, I'm just talking. And you have to explain to this little 3-year-old that you're talking. The 3-year-old, if you talk to them like an adult, they're not going to understand you. You have to talk to them like a child. But in obviously adult words. I'm not saying you make sounds. Everybody has their own way. But the point is that you have to speak to people in their level. If a person is a scholar, talk to him like a scholar. If a person is an Am Haaretz, talk to him as not necessarily an Am Haaretz, but talk to him in a language that an Am Haaretz would understand. You can't start throwing off sources if the guy doesn't even know if God's real. So you have to talk to people in their level. This takes a lot of experience because the only way you're going to find this out is if you get feedback from people. I had one time, a guy says, listen, I've been listening to your shiurim for 2 years. And I only started understanding them now. I couldn't believe he's been watching for 2 years and still watched if he doesn't understand the shiur. But I asked myself, like, what don't you understand? I try to be pretty clear. I speak English. But the reality is, if you start from zero, and this is your first shiur, this may be difficult for you a little bit. If I say, Gemara, Masechet Sanhedrin, page 27, you have no idea what I'm talking about. What's a Masechet? Who's Sanhedrin? Who's Rashi? Why does he keep interfering? One time a student told me, he's like, I showed your shiur to somebody, and he says, who is this Chazal people? Who is this Chazal? I want to talk to Chazal. Where's this Chazal? I want to talk to them. If you don't know, you don't know what you don't know. So you have to make sure that you know your audience. You try to cater to as many as you can. You can never cater to everyone. But you have to speak clearly. Intuitive understanding, delve into things, discern. Don't just take things for their superficial value, just looking at it at one time and think that you already understand the whole idea. think about it from different perspectives. Your perspective and the opposite of your perspective. This is also why it's very good to have a chavuta. Because if he's a good chavuta, even if he agrees with you, he's going to tell you the opposite. After Resh Lakish died, Rabbi Yochanan was losing his mind. So they gave him different chavuta, different people to study with. But these new people, all they did is agree with Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, I don't need you to agree with me. I already know I'm right. I need Resh Lakish, who used every time I gave him an argument, he gave me over 20 reasons of why I'm wrong. That's why I want as a chavuta. And now we go back and forth to see what the truth is. Is it one of his 20 reasons? Or is the original thing I said right? I have to defend my idea. But you're only going to get to that if you delve into things, you look at them from different perspectives. Is it right? Does it have a source? Does it have an opposite source? Are there multiple opinions? Can both opinions be right? Sometimes both opinions are right. Zeh v'zeh divrei Elokim chayim. Both of them, the 1 and 0, both right. They're both words of the living God. Are in reverence. Fear of Hashem. If you don't have fear of Hashem, your Torah is considered lo b'shamayim, not from heaven. Torah of a person that does not have fear of heaven is not from heaven. It's from Satan. Why? If you're learning Torah, automatically you become scared. If you don't have fear of heaven, if you don't have fear of punishment, you don't have fear of Gehenom, you don't have fear of making a mistake, you don't have fear of sinning, you don't have fear of disconnecting from Hashem, you're looking at the Torah like it's a philosophy book, like it's a history book, chas v'shalom. And the Zohar Kadosh says, someone that looks at the Torah like a history book loses their right to live. Has no share of Elokei Israel, has no share of God. God disowns him. Modesty. Modesty meaning humility. The Gemara Masechet Ta'anit says that the Torah is like water. It only goes to the lowest place, naturally. The more modest the person is, the better they are at becoming a vessel to accept Torah. But a person that has arrogance, is arrogant, thinks who he is, thinks he's smart, thinks he's this, thinks he's that, whatever he has as Torah is not going to be the emet. Why? Lo b'shamayim. This type of Torah is not from heaven. Joy, the ultimate purpose of the Torah is to give you a sense of joy in this world and the next. If you're learning Torah but you're still miserable, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with your Torah. Torah is supposed to be to give you the ultimate happiness. If you're still in a depression, there's something wrong with your learning. There's something wrong. Most of the time that people become depressed is either because they don't learn or they don't do what they learn. They learn stuff, they watch shiurim, they watch 8 hours a day of shiurim, but they only do 8 minutes of it. He learned 8 minutes, he can tell you what the whole shiur was by heart. He can give you the shiur, but he doesn't do any of it. So his neshama suffers unlimited pain, and he thinks it's because he doesn't have money. He thinks it's because he hasn't found a shidduch yet. He thinks it's because the stock market is down. He thinks because maybe it's this, maybe it's that. No, it's because you're not fulfilling the Torah, and your neshama knows it. And it's suffering. You're torturing your neshama by not following what it knows. Purity obviously begins with your brit, your eyes. Today, Baruch Hashem, we published or republished a book about protecting your brit, protecting your eyes, protecting your modesty. This is a book, a 192-page book from the Holmener Rebbe, Shlita, Shichyeh, that he published some years ago. And I honestly, when I saw it a long time ago, but then I put it aside, never looked into it. And then again, I got it a few days ago. And this time I looked into it, and I couldn't believe all the amazing sources that it has. Many of them we mentioned in our lectures that are mamash the foundation of emet. All the stuff that's unpleasing to the ear but very good for the neshama. He has in this book. He also has one on some other subjects that we'll post soon as well. B'ezrat Hashem. But this book is 192 pages. It's a PDF. It's free, but it's priceless. Because if you read it and you don't do tshuva, most likely you're dead. If you read this book, but you don't do tshuva, that means you're a corpse. It means you're already in the kever and you're patur for mitzvot. Because anyone that reads it and believes what it says, because from the Torah, has to do tshuva for something. Has to fix something. Your eyes, your bleat, your modesty. Because you see the consequence of the actions. You see someone doesn't watch their eyes, can lose olam haba. Someone doesn't protect their bleat, loses olam haba. And he tells you what losing olam haba means. It means genom, never ends. It's not a temporary punishment. You go there for 12 months like a vacation. It's genom begins and doesn't end. An immodest woman, Hashem yarachem. If she doesn't do tshuva, her genom starts and doesn't end. Why? She becomes a machtiyah rabim. She causes people to sin. Yeah, why is it my fault that they're looking at me? Of course it's your fault. Who else's fault would it be? Hashem's? You wore the clothes, or didn't wear the clothes, better yet. You decided not modest. Oh, but I like the way it looks. Okay, so you like the way it looks. There's a consequence for the like the way it looks. There's plenty of beautiful, modest clothes in the world. In fact, the most beautiful women, classy, not Shem Echem, classiest women of all are always the most modest. You're never going to see a queen of any country, a real queen, not Barack Obama's wife, this woman. Talk about a real queen. Go out with a bikini. Go out with a tank top. Never. Why? That's not the levush of a queen. This queen, with all of her ma'alot, she'd be the queen of England, the queen of Africa, the queen of any country in the world, is nothing, zero, next to the simplest Jewish girl in the world. Why? She's a queen here. A Jewish girl is queen in Shamayim. You have no permission to walk around immodest. Why? Other people look at you. Other people sin because of you. This book talks about it. Talks about the consequence of being a machtiyah rabim, causing other people to sin. It's very scary. Purity is very, very difficult to achieve as a whole because it requires a lot of mesirut nefesh, but very easy at the same time. It's very hard because we get used to certain things. We get used to certain clothes. We get used to certain behaviors, certain physical things. That takes time to get used to. But it's very easy because it simply all requires a decision. Just a decision. Do you want to do it or not? If you want to do it, you'll succeed. Maybe in a day, a week, a month, a year, you'll definitely succeed. Gemara says somebody wants to become pure, Hashem helps him. She wants to become pure, Hashem's going to help her. If she really wants, not she pretends she wants. Oh, I meant to wear modest clothing, but isn't this nice anyway? What do you mean nice? You're walking around with underwear. How is this nice? You're a Jewish princess walking around with underwear. How is this nice? Every guy who looks at you has to go to Gehenom now. How is this nice? How are you going to feel when you're going to see all your brothers and sisters getting burned? How are you going to feel? Oh, wow, that's my friend Steve. Wow, look at his face, poor guy. Oh, wow, I can't believe David. Wow, what are they doing to you? They're taking off your arm. Hashem Hashem. Wow, look at his eyes. They poked him out. Oh, wow. And then God says, yeah, this is all you. Me, Hashem? Yeah, remember that day that you walked around with the short sleeves and the short skirt, remember? All three of them looked at you and said, wow, she looks good. So I'm showing them what looks good in Shemaim. I did it, Hashem. Yes, you did it. Yes, you did it. Yeah, but I didn't know. Well, you're supposed to know. Now you have a book that you have no excuse. If you didn't want to watch the lectures because you're scared of long lectures, now you have a book. And you can read it at your leisure. Technically, you could also watch the lectures at your leisure and watch them 5 minutes at a time. You don't actually have to watch the whole 3 hours. I don't come to your house and tell you, hey, if you don't watch the whole 3 hours, I'm going to beat you up. You could actually watch it 5 minutes at a time and finish it after, 60 views. But still, eventually finish. Now you have a book. You can read it on Shabbat. You can read it during the day. You can read it at night. And it's in English. I couldn't believe this was in English. Because in English, you literally have almost no MUSSAR books. No emet in English. All the stuff that I said in my lectures about Genom, about wasting seed, all the real punishment stuff comes from Hebrew books. 95% of it. So when I found this, I said, wow, this is like mamash, a gift for the generation. So I sent the email this morning. Everyone that's on the list that signed up to the website should have gotten it. If you didn't get it, I think Bezat Hashem, we put it on the site already. Yeah, it's already on the website. You go to bezathashem.org. You can download it for free and become pure as you read it. Next thing is Shimush Chachamim, ministering to the sages, getting close to a Talmid Chacham and helping him as much as possible, whether it's money or time or skill, effort, whatever it is. We talked about all of this last week. Now that we finished the introduction, Bedikduk Chaverim, closeness to colleagues. Dikduk Chaverim, Rabotai, means closeness to colleagues, and there's two different, or really not so different opinions. The Emunat Shmuel says this careful, this Dikduk Chaverim is not just colleagues, meaning people that you study Torah with, but actually your choice of friends. Being careful with who you're going to be friends with. Because if you're not careful with who you're friends with, eventually you're going to become just like them. The Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Eliezer ben Orkinos, says something, gives an analogy about this that is simple but genius at the same time. He says, what are friends like? Friends are like somebody that works in a perfume store. He works in a perfume store and he expects not to have perfume on him. Even if he doesn't expect to have perfume on him, at the end of the day, he's going to smell like perfume. Why? He works in a perfume store. Even if he has no intention to have perfume, he doesn't put it on himself. The surroundings and people trying out the perfumes and this bottle, and let me test this one, and let me test that one, it goes in the air. And little by little, a little bit of this one goes on him, a little bit of that one goes on him, a little bit of everything goes on him. By the time he gets home, his wife tells him, change, go to the shower, wash everything, you stink. Why? What are you talking about? I didn't put anything. You put everything, not anything, you put everything. If you're surrounded by bad friends, it doesn't matter that you did tshuva. It doesn't matter that you mean well. It doesn't matter that you want to get them to go and start doing better things. If everyone that's around you is less than you, they're not keeping mitzvot, eventually you'll be like them. They're not going to be like you. They're not going to be like you. You can't go down to their level. I'm going to go do KIRUV at a club. Somebody told me one time, yeah, I'm going to go to the KIRUV. I go to the clubs, go have a couple of drinks with the guys, but I'm doing KIRUV. I'm doing KIRUV. I said, yeah, in Genom, they have KIRUV there also. You can't go to the clubs, do KIRUV. You can't smoke marijuana with your friends to make them feel comfortable to do KIRUV. You can't. It doesn't work that way. If you want to do KIRUV with people that are not fulfilling the Torah and mitzvot, you have to bring them up. Bring them up. Invite one at a time to your house, to your turf, to your holiday, to your Shabbat. Show them how you live. Don't let them show you how they live. Show them the beauty of Torah. Because if you go there to their level, unless you're literally the Baal Shem Tov, you're simply going to get infected. It's only a matter of time. Now the problem that a lot of people have, and this is really no longer just a Baal Tshuva problem. It used to be, at least it seemed, that this was only a Baal Tshuva problem. Of somebody that does Tshuva and then all of their family and friends have not. So that makes, Friday night dinners uncomfortable because you're the only one that's not driving on Shabbat. That makes the holidays uncomfortable because you're the only one that's actually eating kasher the whole holiday. And it makes a lot of things uncomfortable. But the reality is, it's no longer just a Baal Tshuva problem. It's everybody's problem. Because every house has somebody that's off the derech, that's not keeping mitzvot. Either immediate family member, like a son, a daughter, a father, a mother, a cousin, a best friend, a neighbor. Everybody has somebody that's really close to them, at least one person, most people much more than one person, that's as far from Hashem as the Hashem Yachem. Everybody has it. And the reality is that if you're going to try to get these people to do tshuva, you have to understand that you cannot go down to their level. You can't go down to their level, and you can't surround yourself with only these types of people. KIRUV is not something you're supposed to do 24 hours a day. KIRUV is something you're supposed to do as part of your day, as part of your week, as part of your relationship, but not all the time. Why? Because if you're constantly surrounded by only secular people, eventually you'll become secular. You'll be infected by it eventually. Why? Because the Yetzer Hara works really hard. And you're forgiving, if you're opening the door wide open for him, eventually, yeah, he's married, and he has 3 girlfriends, and he has 8 girlfriends, and he has boyfriends, and so on and so forth. Right. Eventually, somebody's going to walk through the door that kind of looks good to you, even though you're married. Eventually, what they're smoking sounds kind of delicious, so let me try it. Eventually, what they're drinking looks kind of tasty. Let me try it. Eventually, where they're going looks like fun. Let's go. Let's try it out. If it's not good, I'll leave right away, and you end up not leaving. Eventually, somebody invites you to a wedding or a bar mitzvah with mixed dancing. He says, oh, come on, I don't want to offend my friend. He's my best friend. So you start making exceptions and exceptions and exceptions, and little by little you become a naval birshut Torah. Despicable, but you think that you have the Torah. So, careful choice of friends is an understatement. In so many words, what the Chachamim are trying to tell us is that if we're not careful with our friends, we're simply not going to get the Torah. It's not one of those things, well, yeah, you could just skip this one. There are certain things that you can still be a giant even if you don't have it. This is one of those things where if you don't have this, you're simply not going to reach anything. Why? If you're constantly surrounded by people that are anti-Torah, lefty, liberal, Zionists, Christians, Buddhists, people that worship cows in the street, if all of your friends are worshiping cows or the like, eventually it's going to infect you. And eventually it's going to hurt your emunah and your connection. You're going to start questioning things. I remember I told you a few weeks ago that young yeshiva boy told me that one of his teachers in yeshiva is an atheist, which was one of the strangest things I've ever heard in my life. To have a teacher in a yeshiva be an atheist, which is the opposite of, it's the biggest oxymoron you could ever imagine. Now, this explained a lot of the questions that the boy had, but the boy didn't think he was being infected by this terrible atheism, because he was still keeping mitzvot, he was still keeping Shabbat, he was still keeping all the things he knew, but all of a sudden his questions changed. He says to me, well, how come Hashem created the world in such a way that you have such a big desire to sin by wasting seed, if really it's very normal? Only an atheist asks a question like that. It's a question with an answer that you already have. How come Hashem made it so difficult not to waste seed if it's very normal to waste seed? As if you're asking the question as if you're putting Hashem in a situation where he's wrong. Only an atheist asks a question like this. And the little boy doesn't realize that this atheist so-called teacher that he has is already infecting him. He already has the virus in him. If all of your friends, most of your friends, are going to be such things, it's only a matter of time for their tum'ah to infect you. So you have to be very, very careful with your choice of friends. What kind of friends should a person find? Chamim explained that a person has to find friends that have good character, intellectual clarity, are both good-hearted, and perform good deeds. Now this may seem like a long shopping list, but it really isn't, because one goes with the other. A person that has a good character trait usually has to have a reason of why he has a good character trait. That reason is that he knows that God exists and runs the world. So he has to be good. It's not that he's good because that's his nature to be like a nice little guy. If he's nice just because it makes sense to him, then usually he's not nice in other things. He's nice when he wants to be. But if he's nice because he knows there's an instruction set that came from heaven, there's a boss that's watching everything, that automatically makes him an intellectual. That automatically gives him intellectual clarity, but that also makes that person a good-hearted person, because no one that believes in God, really believes in God, but not just some fake God, is going to be a bad person. Why? Because if you believe in God, you want to emulate him. If you emulate him, you're going to emulate good, only good. But how do you define good? By performing good deeds. You can't just say, no, I'm a good person. I never killed anybody. So the dog never killed anybody. Does that mean it's a good person also? A lot of people didn't kill everybody. Does that mean they're all good people? They just robbed people. They didn't kill them. The guy only raped 5 kids. So he didn't kill them. He's a good guy, no? He's a good guy. What defines good? Good is someone that creates good. Good cannot be defined by no action. It can't be a picture that's good. Just stay on the wall. Wow, that's such a good picture. What's good about it? It may be a nice picture, a pretty picture, but there's nothing good about it. You can't be a good person that does nothing all day. No, I didn't hurt anybody. Why? Because you were sleeping all day. You're hurting yourself. You're bad to yourself. You're a bad person. You're not allowed to be bad to yourself. So here we learn that if you're going to choose friends, you have to start paying attention to how they behave. What does he do when he gets mad? What does he do when somebody asks him for change? What does he do when someone asks him for tzedakah? What does he do when things go wrong? Koso, kiso, vekaso. The Gemara says we determine a person's character based on 3 things. His cup, his pocket, and his anger. His cup, how does he behave after he has a couple of drinks? That's who he really is. If he's really nice before he has drinks, but after he has a couple of drinks, got a little buzz, all of a sudden becomes Amalek, that's who he really is. No, I'm only like this when I'm drunk. No, that's who you really are the whole time. You're just hiding it much better without the drinks. If you're one of those angry drunks, that's you. That's you. Better don't drink, but obviously better start working on yourself. There's no such thing as a nice person that's angry when he's drunk. No, he's always angry, just contains it better when he's not drinking. That's koso. Kiso is his pocket. How does he behave when it comes to money issues? I always tell people, I learned this in the business world, and then later on, of course, in the Torah. Wish I would have learned it in the Torah and in the business world. Saved me a lot of money. But if you ever want to meet people and know who they really are, put a lot of money in front of them. Put business in front of them. Then you get to meet who they really are. Why? Because when everybody starts like a new business, a new partnership, everyone's friends, it's high fives. Yeah, we're going to do this, man. Yeah, and everyone's excited. And you go over his house, and they go over to your house, and all of a sudden you're double dating, and you're going with your wife, and you're going on vacation together, and you're like, huggy, he's my best friend. No, you're my best friend. I love you, man. And you start hugging it out in the middle of the street. Hey, yeah. 6 months later, he's like, I hate the guy. He's a Amalek. He's Hitler. He's this. What do you mean? Last week you said he's the best guy in the world. You were high-fiving him in the middle of the street. It was embarrassing to watch you. What happened? Now I found out he's stealing from me. Okay, does that make him a bad guy, or he just has a high desire for money? He has an addiction to money, or does that make him really Hitler? What happened to the hugs? The best friend, I love you. What happened to that? Money came in front. Now, of course, the other guy also said, I love you. He loved money much more than you. But he didn't know that until the money came through. When you were saying, I love you, there was no money. You were both broke. You both put your $10,000 life savings into a pot, hoping to make something out of it. It grew to $1 million. All of a sudden, you hate each other. What happened? No, my wife found out something about his wife. So? What happened to the hugs, to the kisses, to the double dates, to the vacations, all the pictures you put on Facebook with your best friend? He's my BFF. Then you bought a heart. The breaker, you had one piece, he had the other piece. What happened? Money. Money happened. You want to get to know somebody? Kiso. Pocket. How does he behave when it comes to money? If he's cheap, he's not a good person. If he's a thief, he's not a good person. If he's dishonest, he's not a good person. There's nothing good about a person that's not honest with money. No, but he's nice in everything else. Yes, he's nice in everything else. It's easy for anybody else to be nice in everything else. But when it counts, he's not nice. The Germans, Yimach Shimam, were the most civilized people in the world. According to the people, they would say thank you to everyone, regardless of what you do. And when you would ask them a question, they would say to you an answer, and then follow up with, don't you think? As if to show humility. As if they're not really sure. Maybe they're trying to confirm with you, even though you asked them the question, they're confirming if you agree with what they presented to you. What time is it? It's 8 o'clock. Don't you think? Which way do you think is the big bridge? I think it's west. Don't you think? And this is the way they answered the question. This is the way they talked. The Chachamim say, you're going to see these people. You think this is good midot? The Saba Minavaldok. Saba Minavaldok says, you think this midot? You're going to see these people eat people. You're going to see them murder people in cold blood. Because it's all fake. They gave more respect to dogs. Dogs, they loved their dogs. The Nazis loved their dogs. Somebody thought, wow, look how nice these people are. I believe it was Rav Wasserman, Allah Shalom, says, you're going to see these people that give respect to dogs, you're going to see them kill people in the middle of the street. How the Chachamim saw such insight, that's because of the Torah. But people don't know what nice means. They think because you have nice manners and nice words and a big vocabulary and you want a few spelling bees and you have a heart and your best friend has a heart and you give high fives and you go to lunch together and that makes you a nice person. Oh, my friends. Nice person always has to do with money. Why? It's the first test. When a person goes up to Shamayim, Gemara Masechet Shabbat says, first question, money. How were you when it came to money? Did you deal with business with emunah? Meaning, did you realize Hashem is watching you when it comes to money? Or you thought you're the boss? Because that's the ultimate test for most people. It's the ultimate test. Ultimate test of friendships, ultimate test of marriages. Vast majority of marriages break up because of money. Either because of too much money or too little money. In reality, it was never a marriage. It was an agreement. That as long as you have money, everything's going to be okay. As soon as you don't have any money, no agreement. No interested. So, a person needs to review how her friend behaves when it comes to money. Ka'aso is anger. Her anger. Somebody makes you upset. Because if you're angry when someone doesn't make you upset, then there's a different shiur. For you, it's in a mental institution. If you're just upset because nothing happened, you probably have like a dibuk or something in you. But usually dibuk means like a demon of some kind inside you. It's a joke. I'm very funny today. So, usually people get mad when somebody gets them upset. How do you know if they're a good person or not? How upset do you get? What's your level? Is your level of being upset in accordance to the level of how much they upset you? Rabbi Yaron Reuven Shalom said something genius. He says, what's sinat chinam? What's baseless hatred? Sinat chinam literally means free hate. Free hate. He goes, what's free hate? What's free hate? Now, we all know the common definition, which is you hate somebody just because. He hates you because you're black. You hate him because he's white. He hates you because you're Ashkenazi. You hate him because he's Sephardi. All this nonsense. You live in Los Angeles. He hates you because of that. He hates you because you live in New York. Everyone hates Florida, including the people that live in Florida. Everybody hates. That's the common definition. Another definition that Chazal says, Rabbi Yaron Reuven says, is when you are showing hate to a person if you know the truth and you don't tell them. You know that sinning on Shabbat means a death penalty and you don't tell your friend. You let him continue driving on Shabbat and never say anything. Never send him a video, never give him a CD, never give him a book, never tell him. You know he's violating Shabbat, you know she's not modest, you know she's doing things wrong, but you never say anything. That's also hate. You know the train's coming to hit them, but you don't tell them to move out of the way. That's another form of hate. But Rabbi again, Allah Shalom, said something genius. That's the third commentary on this, and it's emet. So you know sometimes you have a neighbor, and the neighbor is really annoying. Like she happens to do the laundry at 12 o'clock at night when your kids just finally went to sleep for the first time in 3 days. And she decides to do the laundry with the loudest noise in the world because the laundry machine has to be the loudest at 12 o'clock at night. And she wakes up your kids. And how much do you hate her at that point? Oh, why you hate her? You're cursing her mother, her father, her this, her that. I hate her. That's sinat chinam. Why? You're right to hate her a little bit. You're right. Why is she doing laundry at 12 o'clock at night? You just want to sleep. Do it 12 o'clock in the afternoon. You're right to hate a little bit. It's annoying. It is annoying. It's a little annoying. But to start cursing and yelling and lose your mind and start that's free. That's extra. That's extra. It's too much. Okay, you're annoyed. You're a normal person if you're annoyed. But all that extra cursing and yelling, and the next time you see her, you're not going to say hello, and the next time you see her, you're going to say something and embarrass her in front of somebody else. What are you doing? That's extra. That's sinat chinam. That extra hate. Your husband didn't come home on time. Ooh, you hate him. Why? Oh, it's my birthday. I can't believe he's coming late. As soon as he comes, yelling, screaming, throw the plate. What happened? You're right. He forgot your birthday. You're right to hate him a little bit. You're right. You should have remembered your birthday. He's married for 20 years. You should have remembered your birthday. It's right to hate him a little bit. For like 2 minutes. Oh, you forgot your birthday. He's busy. He's got stress. IRS is after him. Whatever. You're right to hate him a little bit because you should be considerate for your birthday. It's important to you for some reason. That you're getting older and closer to death. I don't know. It's important to you. You're celebrating your birthday. Fine. You should hate him a little bit. But the plate and the yelling, and I'm not talking to him, sleep on the couch for 3 years, and that's extra. That's extra. That's sinat chinam. Okay, you're right a little bit to get a little upset. But to lose your cool, start yelling, I don't sleep in the bed, sleep at your friend's house, I'm locking the door, I'm changing the keys. People lose their mind. That's extra. That's free. That's no good. How does your friend act when they're angry? That's how you're going to know if they're a good person or not. If they're a good person, they're going to work on their anger. They're not going to work on their anger when they're not angry. That's easy. It's easy for all of you to work on your anger right now because you're not angry, Baruch Hashem. Some of you are even laughing if you're paying attention because it's kind of funny today. But the reality is, you're supposed to work on your anger when? When you're angry. When you're angry. Are you going to say that word? Ooh, it's too much. That word is too much. The first one was okay. The second, third, fourth, and 50th one that I was planning, that's too much. That's when you have to work on it when you're under fire. When it's the most difficult. That's when you have to work on it. Working on it theoretically by reading books, coming to lectures, talking about it intellectually, it's nice. It's practice. Game time is when it matters. Game time is when it matters, when the guy cuts you off and you're in a hurry and you almost hit the wall and now you want to get him back and you want to have road rage and you want a YouTube video about it too. That's the time. When you're right to be angry, that's the time. You're right to be angry, but you're wrong. That's when you have to work on anger. That's when you have to work on anger. So somebody that wants to know what kind of friends do I have has to look at people this way. But that also means they have to look at themselves. Because you can't judge somebody else for something you're not doing yourself. And you can't accept them for wrong things just because you're not doing it. Meaning that if you're going to expect to have good friends, you have to be good too. Because good attracts good. No one that's good is going to want to be friends with you if you're bad. And you shouldn't want to have bad friends if you're good. Which means that if you want good friends, you have to work on yourself. You have to work on yourself. The other aspect the Maharal says is when it comes to Torah. The Torah is not accessible to individuals. The Torah is not something that a person can simply learn by themselves forever. He has to have colleagues. He has to have people to exchange ideas with. His rabbi, his chavruta. He has to have people to exchange ideas with. Why? Because there are certain times where you have to debate. There's certain times that you have to ask questions. There's certain times that you have certain issues. A person has to have friends that know Torah. If they don't know Torah, and you're trying to be someone that lives a Torah life, what's the point of your friendship? Let's think about it for a second. What's the point of friends? It's a serious question. You have to ask yourself at some point in your life. What is the point of a friend? Okay, so you went to have the coffee. You had the coffee, but you could have had it at home also. But let's say you like to go out with a coffee, and you chit-chat. So what are you going to say? You chit-chat because you had a coffee, and you had a lunch, and maybe a steak or something. Hopefully the coffee wasn't milk because the meat is not allowed. But anyway, point is, you had a coffee, you chit-chatted, and what did you chit-chat about? Lashon Hara. If it's not Lashon Hara, what are you going to talk about? There's only two subjects to talk about. Lashon Hara or Torah. If it's not Torah, it's usually Lashon Hara. Almost definitely it's Lashon Hara. Why? What else are you going to talk about? What else is there to talk about? You're going to talk about the president, that you like him, you don't like him, who cares about your opinion? You're a politician? Are you in government? Are you running for office? Who cares about your opinion? Who cares about his opinion? Oh, talk about the stock market. Is the stock market going to listen to you? Because you decided the Fed should lower rates now instead of increase rates because it's tightening money and it's the money supply is not really legitimate and maybe we should go back to the gold standard. And who cares about your opinion? Is he going to make financial decisions because you told him that you like gold and he likes Bitcoin and you... Who cares about your opinion? I've never had a conversation with somebody and took their opinion about the stock market unless I looked for it and I decided for myself. So you're going to talk about the stock market? That's what you're going to talk about? There's nothing else in the world to talk about? You ran out of words? If he wants to talk about the stock market, he can listen to people that get paid to talk. They're called CNBC. There's anchors. They get paid to talk. Non-stop, 24 hours a day, CNBC. You want the news? People get paid to talk. Just go listen to them talk. Why do you have to talk to your friends about this? So, we're done with politics. We're done with business. What else is there to talk about? Oh, we're talking about the kids. Okay, so we talk about the kids. Your kids are getting older. His kids are getting younger. Up, down, whatever it is. What is that, 15 minutes? 15 minutes? Oh, yeah, his diaper is really big. His diaper is too small. She broke her toy. She's going to kindergarten. This school is this school is that. And then we're starting to transfer from the kids to Lashon Hara. Oh, the school, did you ever see that teacher's wig? It's really long. Oh, she's married to such and such. Because you can't continue talking about the kids. Talking about the kids is just the entrance. The entrance to Lashon Hara. You started talking about the kids, the two little kids that you came with and you pretended like you're hanging out with them. Why? So you can talk about Lashon Hara, about the schools. And then Lashon Hara about the teachers. And Lashon Hara about the parents. That's the best part. If we're not going to talk about the parents, you see what she was wearing for the last parent-teacher conference? Can you believe it? Can you believe she was wearing that? I think she's divorced. No, I'm not really sure. Ooh, what conversation. Heat of Gehenom gets warm for these people. What else are you going to talk about? So that's what I'm asking you. Be'emet, what is the point of friends? Oh, I have a good time when I... What? What is the good time? saying Lashon Hara. Or maybe it's looking at things you're not supposed to look. Which leaves us really with one other options. You're going to talk about business, if you're in the same business, but how long is that going to be? You have to talk about something that has to do with the purpose to life. And if it's going to be already about such an important topic, about purpose to life, hopefully it's true. And if it's true, it has to do with Torah. Because there is no other purpose of life that's true outside of the Torah. So which means that if you're going to have friends, you have to be pretty careful about who these friends are. Because if they're completely ignorant about Torah, or they're anti-Torah, you're not going to have much to talk about. Especially if you're trying to be a person that has Torah as a priority in their life. It doesn't always have to be a Parashat Shavua. It doesn't always have to be about the last page in Gemara that you read. It could be about their idea. It could be about something they like. But it has to have some type of purpose. Because if it doesn't have a purpose, usually it has to do with sins. So this is why a person needs to know that if they're going to pick friends carefully, they're also going to worry about whether these people are living a lifestyle that has a common denominator with yours. To such an extent that the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, page 23a, says that the people of Yerushalayim, the Bnei Torah of Yerushalayim, any time that they were invited to somewhere, they wouldn't come unless they knew everyone on the guest list. They wouldn't go anywhere. You're inviting them to a big rabbi's house, to an event, bar mitzvah, wedding. Unless they knew everybody on the guest list, they wouldn't go. Why? I'm scared of being infected by his Lashon Hara. I'm scared of being infected by his Ain Hara. I'm scared of being infected by people. So, the more pure a person tries to become, the more picky he becomes, the more picky she becomes. Because there's simply no time to waste talking about baseball, football, politics, and all of the other neutral subjects that really lead to nowhere. There are much more useful things to talk about. You just have to pick wisely. Which leads to the next point. One of the main things that is expected to be done from these friends is pilpula talmidim, which is sharp discussions with students. Debates, in general, are a necessity in Judaism. Anyone that learned a little bit of Gemara knows that on every single page of the Gemara, the entire Shas, there's a debate. Why? Because sharp debates that are looking for the truth, cannot be done by a single person. Why? Because you're biased to your pre-existing opinion. So if you already have a pre-existing opinion about how something should be, that pre-existing opinion may be wrong. How do you test if it's right or wrong? If you can prove it to somebody that has the opposite opinion. But not because of your clever talk. Not because you're a better speaker like Obama or Osama. Not because you're one of these people that could speak for 5 hours with no break. No. Because you have facts. You have facts to back up what your opinion is. And therefore your opinion is not actually an opinion, but rather it's a fact that could stand the test of time. But the only way that you could do that is if you constantly test it. How do you test it? By going with other students and debating them back and forth about this specific thing. Because this is the way, when you debate, you get to the truth. That if you are wrong, you're going to get to the truth. You're going to get to the right. If you are right, you're now going to have security that you're right. But one of the main things that a person benefits from debates is when he debates his own students. Own students could be people that attend lectures. Own students can be people that watch lectures. Own students can be family members. Own students could be friends. that you go back and forth with. This is one of the most critical things for a person to have some type of wall to bounce their ideas off of. But not their ideas from their common sense because they like themselves. Rather, their ideas that have some type of validity. The problem with today's politically correct world is people simply do not know how to debate. Because people take things personally. As soon as you tell them something that's the opposite of their opinion, they're offended. Oh, I can't believe you said that. I have a cousin that's a Mechalel Shabbat. You're saying he's going to die? Wow, you're a terrible person. I didn't say he's going to die. God said he's going to die. Yeah, but you said it. It sounds worse coming from you. If God talked to me, I don't understand if he said it, but you said it. You're a bad person. I'm not going to be friends with you anymore. Oh, you offended me. You said reform is not good. Oh, you offended me. You don't like Christians? Oh, you offended me. You're saying homosexuals are going to die? Oh, I'm saying what the Torah is saying. I have nothing against homosexuals. I have nothing against Mechalel Shabbat. I hope they do tshuva. But I'm saying what the... No, it sounds terrible. And they start crying to you. Sometimes literally, sometimes figuratively with their craziness. And they drive you crazy. Why? Because people simply can't handle information that's the opposite of their predisposition. That's the opposite of what they think normally. What's the opposite of what their logic is. Oh, you're telling me that God created us with such desires, but then he's going to punish us for fulfilling those desires? That's an evil God. That's what people say. I'm like, well, I wouldn't call someone that created you evil, because that would make you really stupid to call your creator evil. But aside from that, I mean, why don't you actually check what he said from the books? That's the problem. When people take things personally, you can't debate them. You'll actually have better luck debating a wall than a person that takes things offensively. Because someone that's politically correct and wants you to say things in a certain way, and if you don't say it a certain way, then you're being mean, and you're being racist, and you're being this, and you're being that, this is a complete waste of time. Most people have a hard time talking about things that are wrong, or things that are the opposite of them, or things that people call the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room. Elephant, like as if an elephant's coming to this room. An elephant in the room. Oh, let's remove the elephant in the room. What? Let's talk about such and such. The reality is, the reason why you view it as an elephant in the room is because you have a biased opinion. That's why you view it as an elephant in the room, because you have a biased opinion towards this thing. Now, if you have a biased opinion about, let's say, for example, homosexuality, and you're a homophobe, you hate homosexuals, you are not qualified to have a debate with. Why? Because you have a predisposition in your mind that is demented. No one is justifying homosexuality. It's wrong. Torah says the death penalty, no share of the world to come. Hashem Yerachem, Toivat Hashem. It's considered disgusting in the eyes of Hashem. It's considered like bestiality in the eyes of Hashem. But the Torah never said, go hate the homosexual. Get him to do tshuva. Get him to overcome his desires and not be an animal and just act on every desire that he has. Get him to understand that in reality, yes, Hashem created you with a desire for masculinity. That doesn't mean you have to go with a man. Just go with a masculine woman. That's all it means. You are a little soft and you want someone strong. That doesn't mean Hashem said, oh no, you should go with another guy. That's stupidity. It just means you want someone more masculine than you. There are plenty of masculine women that would love to be with you. Or the opposite. I want something feminine. I want something feminine. Feminine. Okay, so get a woman that's feminine. That's it. Or a guy that's really feminine. There's plenty of both, Baruch Hashem. There's millions of people looking for shidduchim. Stop using your own logic. Stop using your own logic thinking that Hashem made a mistake in creation. Delve into the problem. Understand There is a pitaron, there's a solution for everything. You have to understand the source of the problem. I was born this way. It's the stupidest argument in the world. Saying you're born a certain way literally makes you the biggest kofar in the world. Why? You're saying, in essence, God made a mistake. I was born this way. I was born gay. No one's born gay. You were born with an attraction to something that's not typical. Typically, men are masculine and they prefer feminine. You happen to be feminine, you prefer masculine. Fine. Get a woman that is masculine. There's plenty of them. Plenty of them. If you want, she'll even grow a mustache for you. Who knows? Makes you happy. Doesn't mean you have to go with the same gender. I was born this way. I'm sick. Nonsense. I have a student. I have a few students actually. A few actually right by this point. Baruch Hashem. I have one guy told me I pretended to be homosexual my whole life. He thought he was for sure 40 years. He was convinced, 45 years. Convinced he was homosexual. He started learning Mussar. He's not homosexual. He's married, he's got kids, Baruch Hashem, everything's good. Why? Hashem has a pitaron. I have another kid. Thought he was homosexual, 15 years old, 16 years old. Started listening to a shiurim. He wrote a letter on our website. You see the letter on the website. He says, already I'm learning shiurim for a few years. Not only he's not practicing homosexuality, he says, I don't even have the desires anymore. It's completely been, the Torah completely removed these horrible desires from his heart. The power of Torah is infinite. There's no such thing as God makes mistakes. People make mistakes. If God made mistakes, he wouldn't be God. So, to get to the bottom line, you have to talk about the elephant in the room, but not because it's the elephant in the room. Rather because there's an emet that people view as an elephant. Racism, I don't know why anybody should be racist. Who says you're the right race, you're the wrong race, who made you God? People say, no, I'm this, no, I'm that. I think it's complete nonsense. But people still play the race card today. They play the race card. A lot of times in the conversion world. Conversion world, somebody converts and then they regret they converted. Why? Because people don't accept them. Because they came from Mexico, or they came from Haiti, or they came from wherever they came from. And the community they moved in doesn't have many people like them. Or anybody like them. Oh, I hate it, I hate... Hate what? Torah? What does Torah have to do with these people? Who said you're obligated to be friends with them? Go find people that are like you. Oh, there isn't any. Move. Move somewhere else. Rashi said, you want friends? Buy a book. You want friends? Buy a Sefer Torah. The reality is, Rabotai, all of these things, these elephant in the rooms, are complete nonsense. There's an emet in the world. If you look for it, you delve into it, you'll find it. But if you look for excuses to justify your behavior, like this one guy that wrote an article that he originally converted, but then he didn't realize that there's so much racism among the Jewish world, so now he's a secular Jew, but it's okay because Hashem forgives him. He already knows what Hashem decided for him. He decided for Hashem. There's no one stupider than the converts that become secular. No one stupider in the world. Like there's a list, and I have a wall in the house. Stupid, stupid, stupid. The stupidest, that guy is the convert that becomes secular. A woman that converts to Judaism and lives a secular life qualifies dumbest person beyond the Christian, believe it or not. Beyond the Christian. Most of the Christians don't even know that they're of the Avodah Zarah. They don't even know. Most of them don't know they're worshiping an idol. So you can't really call them stupid. Maybe ignorant, but not stupid. Many of them are very smart, actually. But someone that converts to Judaism and then ends up being secular, qualified, stupid. Why? Why'd you do it then? Why did you convert to the strictest religion on earth, the only real one in the world,
if you're not going to keep it? Now you're going to get death penalty. Now you're going to have problems in your life. For what? So it's very important to address these issues and be comfortable with reality. Reality shouldn't make you uncomfortable. Shouldn't make you uncomfortable. There's an emet in the world. Obviously, you have to be polite. You have to have a certain way of speaking. Try to make a joke. Try to make things this, intellectual, and so on. But the point is, don't be uncomfortable about emet. When you're constantly having sharp discussions with other chachamim, there's going to be fire. When Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel would debate, it would sometime get to a fist fight. You're talking about the holiest people on earth on the right side, the holiest people in the world on the left side, and they're fighting fire to the point where they're literally fist fight. What do you think, they're fist fighting because they're criminals? They're Esav? No. They're trying to save each other. Both of them can swear in Hashem's name. They have the emet. And if you violate it, you're going to get death penalty. I'm trying to save you, you fool. No, I have the emet. I'm trying to save you. And they would fight back and forth, back and forth. It would be out of love for each other. How do we know it was love for each other? Because despite how big the debate was, and who punched who, and who was right at the end, they'd still let their kids marry each other. In fact, they would prefer their kids marry each other. Instead of marrying among themselves. Hillel marries Hillel. No. Hillel, go to Shammai. Shammai, go to Hillel. Why? I love them. Yeah, but you fought him last week. No, I wasn't fighting him. I was fighting his falsehood. No, but he says he has the truth. Now I have the truth. We're still in a fight. So why do you want to marry him? He's amazing. He's the best guy in the world. That's why I want you to marry him. It has nothing to do with our difference of opinion. We have a different opinion. We're fighting because we're trying to save each other. We're trying to get to the bottom line. But that's fire. So sometimes you're going to see in a Gemara sharp words. Like things that, if you said it in today's world, people would start crying. One example that I love is Chachamim sometimes have a debate, and one of them comes with an opinion, a new chidush. And he says whatever the chidush is. He's excited. New insight, chidush, Mount Sinai, gave a whole shiur about it. And his colleague says, you just made a sin from a Torah, bal tashchit. You just made a sin from a Torah of wastefulness. You wasted the words that came out of your mouth and the ink that came out of the pen to write this idea of yours. You've been very wasteful. Meaning your idea is complete nonsense. If you say this to people today, they may start crying on the spot. They may start crying on the spot. Oh, my teacher told me I wasted my ink. My teacher told me I wasted my words. They don't mean to be insulting. It's just sharp. It's fire. Like, why are you wasting my time with falsehood? If you would have double-checked this idea again, you would have gone to the truth. Why wasting time? Why wasting time? So, sharp language between the Chachamim, fire. Meaning, if you're politically correct, you will never, ever be a Chacham. Ever. You won't survive. If you go to Yerushalayim, they'll eat you up alive. You go to Kolon Yerushalayim, and you're one of these politically correct people, you won't survive. You'll hide in the bathroom. What happened? Oh, Avrechim. The heaviest one among them is 100 pounds. Why are you so scared? Well, he's scared. He's like a lion. Why? He says, I'm wasting my words. You see, I'm wasting my words. The only way to be a lion, only way to have the crown of Torah is to become a Chacham. But you can't be a Chacham politically correct. Scared to say things, scared to ask, scared of this, scared of that, offended about this, offended about that. Why are you so offended? Why are you so offended? Why are people so offended about? He offended me. About what? What did I say? The truth? The truth offended you? You have a problem. What else are you going to say? Lie? I'm going to lie for your sake? Oh, no. Guys, there's a truth, but today we're going to lie for such and such. Why? We don't want to offend him. We don't want to offend him. Everyone's going to hear a lie for 3 hours. Why? We don't want to offend some people. Because we don't want to offend the public, we're going to lie to everyone. So, welcome. Like, people live this type of life. It's very important to know that when it comes to Torah, there's no room for being offended. There's no room. You simply have to get to the bottom line. What is true? What is not true? To such an extent, the Chachamim in the Gemara Masechet Ta'anit said that the ultimate truth, they'd learned from their own students. This, for anyone that's an arrogant person, is very hard to admit. People usually, when they're trying to show off their intellectual guns, what do they tell you? They tell you who they learned under. Oh, I learned under Rabbi such and such. I learned under Professor such and such. I have this degree. I have that degree. I wrote this amount of papers, this amount of books. They're flexing their intellectual muscles to show you, I know what I'm talking about. What the Chachamim do? No, me, I learned from my students. They're my teacher. Your students, they're in 8th grade. Yeah, perfect. Why? The Gemara in Masechet Ta'anit says, page 7a, says the Chachamim view their students like little pieces of wood. Why little pieces of wood? Because you need the little pieces of wood to light up the big log. The big log you can't light up. If you put a lighter on a big log, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. What do you need? Little wood chips. Little wood chips. They have the fire. Put that fire under the big log, you got something. You got something. But if you're too arrogant to tell people you're learning from your students, you're too arrogant to tell people that you're learning from their questions, that you never asked the same question they asked. You never thought about the question they asked the way they asked it. And even though the question itself was wrong, the answer was right because it made you get to a new chidush, and you learned 5 million other things you would have never learned on your own because you never had those questions. That's why David HaMelech says, Mikol melamdai iskalti. David HaMelech says, I learned from everyone. I learned from everyone. Average person, the heretic, the enemies. I learned from everybody. Why? You can learn from everything. You can learn from everything. Almost done. The next part is b'yishuv. B'yishuv means by deliberation. A person should never rush to reply to questions. Many times people want to show off like they know everything off the cuff. I believe it was the Arav Mibrisk. Arav Mibrisk, one time somebody asked a question in the Bet Midrash, and he answered it. He was a little kid. Right off the bat. Somebody asked a question. They asked him a question. Little kid. They asked him a question. Right off the sleeve. Answer the question. Just like that. As fast as he answered the question, his father's hand, gave him a slap on his face. As fast as the question. Got the question. Goes at 150 miles an hour. Answer, 180 miles an hour. Collision, on his face. Well, was he wrong? He was right. The answer was right. Why'd you get slapped then? His father, the Kodesh Kodashim, says to him, that's how you treat Torah? That's how you treat Torah? You don't think about the question enough to maybe you're wrong? You're going to shoot from the hip? What are you, a gunslinger? Deliberate. Think. Don't assume you know the answer. Think about it. Torah is not some X and O game. Worst case scenario, you lose the match, start again. It's life or death. You tell the guy the wrong answer, you can get a death penalty from Shamayim. You can't just shoot from the hip because you for sure know the answer. Maybe you don't. Maybe the for sure is not really for sure. Don't be so sure. Think. Double check. It's life or death. Life or death. This may seem vicious. This may seem cruel. This may seem like an overkill to some people, but that only means that they don't understand that being wrong about Torah is the difference between life or death. If you understand that being wrong about Torah means life or death, then you realize this was nothing. There's a life lesson that you're always going to consider and delve about things and deliberate and think and maybe, oh, okay, you thought about it for 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 minutes, an hour, 5 days, whatever required, and then you gave an answer. But you gave an answer when you're sure. Many times, people ask questions, and I know the answer, sometimes. But still, I don't answer right away. Why? I try not to answer right away. Sometimes I do because it's a reflex, but I try not to answer right away. Sometimes I'll intentionally take a day. Instead of 2 minutes, I'll take a whole day. Why? Just in case. Just in case I'm wrong, so I'll double check. I'll ask my Rav. I'll check in a book, which is my Rav also. I know the answer. Sometimes somebody asks me a question, I say, yeah, I'm 99% sure I know the answer. Oh, okay, you know it? No, I'll tell you tomorrow. Why tomorrow? Maybe I'm wrong. 99% sure I know the answer, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't want to go to Gehenom for you. Then wait a day. Your answer can wait a day. If it's urgent, I'll find out a little faster, but usually it's a day. There are certain questions, if it's, again, especially when it's an halachic question. If it's an halachic question. If it's a midrash or things like that, usually those things are easier to find, require much less time, could be even 2 minutes. But in general, it's very, very important to deliberate and never rush to reply to questions, because when you rush, you're going to end up making a very big mistake. And that mistake, you're not going to notice it because you're so fast with so many other things, you're never going to even give yourself enough time to review all the actions you took, that you could literally live with a mistake for 20 years. When we talked about the smicha of the Yoreh that Baruch Hashem we got recently, I asked my Rav, like, what's the difference between this one and that one, and all the different smichot and so on. And then he said to me something that I'll remember forever. He says, some kollels, you go to kollel for 10 years, and maybe you'll get Yoreh. Some kollels, it's half the time. Some kollels, more time. Depends. So what's the difference between all the kollels? Well, they have different books? No, it's all the same thing. It's all the same test, pretty much. Give or take, it's all the same test. So what's the test? What's the difference? He says they have to determine whether you have Yirat Shamayim or not. So what? How do you answer the question? Say, yes, you have Yirat Shamayim, yes, I get Yoreh. No, has nothing to do with that. They have to see enough actions from you to know that you have Yirat Shamayim. I said, why do they care if I have Yirat Shamayim or not? I said, because if you have Yirat Shamayim, when somebody asks you a question, you're going to ask somebody else. You're going to double check with somebody else when you don't know. You're not going to be, ashamed of not knowing. You're not going to be ashamed of not knowing. Why? Because there's no shame of not knowing. There's a shame of lying about your knowledge. That's a shame. That's an embarrassment. But if you don't know, no problem. I'll find out for you. They want to find out that you have enough Yirat Shamayim that when you don't know, you're going to ask somebody that does know. That's all they're trying to determine. Sometimes it takes 5 years. Sometimes it takes 10 years. Sometimes it can take 1,000 years. Why? Because in reality, it took you 1,000 years to get the Yirat Shamayim. So yes, there's a test in certain subjects and so on, but in reality, the bottom line of what they want to know at this stage, do you have Yirat Shamayim? That we know if somebody asks you a question that's uncomfortable or beyond your knowledge or under pressure or something that affects you, you're going to ask. You're going to double check with a Rav. You're going to double check with a Tamid Chacham. And not pretend like you know. And just say yes, no, maybe. Try it out. Let me know how it turns out. If you go to Gehenom, please let me know so I don't do the same thing. Right. Send me an email. Text me. Do they have WhatsApp in Gehenom? Send me a voice note. Just make sure it's not so noisy. What? You have to have Yirat Shamayim. You have to have Yirat Shamayim. Without Yirat Shamayim, you're going to do stupid things in your life. So a person needs to deliberate over everything before they do it. The Midrash Shmuel says this also is referring, this Yeshuv is also referring to Yeshiva, meaning going to a Yeshiva. You want to be a Talmid Chacham, you have to sit down, you have to learn. If you're at that age, if you're not, make sure your kids do, but you still have to learn on a regular basis. Make time for Torah. V'yigita bo yomam v'layla. You got to the Torah morning and night. Last part, b'mikra u b'mishnah. B'mikra mishnah means knowledge of the written Torah and knowledge of the oral Torah. A person needs to know that they can't simply decide anything with just the written Torah or just the oral Torah. Even though they have two different names, Torah bechtav, Torah be'al peh, written Torah, oral Torah, it is indeed one Torah. One cannot survive without the other. The oral Torah would have nothing to write about if it didn't have the validity and the backbone of the written Torah. The written Torah would be completely illegible if it wasn't for the oral Torah. Anyone that wants to be a Talmid Chacham, wants to have a crown of Torah, wants their kids to have the crown of Torah, has to spend time and effort learning both. Halakha and Shulchan Aruch says that you have to learn each week's parasha 3 times. Each week. Shtay mikra v'echad targum. Twice you have to read it plainly, and once you have to read it with commentary. Originally it was onkelos, but since most people don't know how to read the language of onkelos, unless you buy the new art scroll books that came out recently with onkelos translation to English, then you read it with Rashi and you're still okay. You're still okay. But the key is that why do you have to read the parasha if you read it already last year, and the year before, and the year before, and you've been reading it for 30 years? If you're Rav Kanievsky, not only you read the entire parasha already for 80 plus years, but you read the entire Shas probably over 150 times. Shulchan Aruch, probably another 150 times. The Bavli, the Yerushalmi, the Zohar, the Midrashim, you read everything, you finish everything every year. Why do you have to do it again next year? Because next year, there's going to be new lessons. Yeah, but I read it already 100 times. 101 is a world of difference. Somebody came to the Gaon Vilna and asked him, we learn in the same yeshiva. He says, yes. So how come you became Gaon and I'm just a local rabbi in Orthodox shul with 100 people? He said, how many times did you complete the Shas? He said, 100 times. I said, oh, that's the difference. I did 101. There's such a big difference between 100 and 101. World of difference. World of difference. But 100 times finishing the Shas, although we finish it once, twice, 3 times. 100 times you finish the Shas, the entire Gemara. And you tell me there's that much of a difference between 100 and 101? World of difference. This year you're going to read the parasha, world of difference between the last time you read the parasha last year. World of difference. Next year, world of difference. That same parasha, Parashat Shmot, world of difference from this year. Why? Because if you continued studying the whole year, your neshama added more tools, more knowledge, a little more from here, a little more from there, a little more things you did. You now have different equipment. You have different tools now that you didn't have last year. So now these new tools go to action under certain circumstances. You didn't even know they worked last year. You didn't even know they existed. This year, all of a sudden, you're flying through it. World of difference. Same concept with the oral Torah, the Mishnah. The basis of our entire oral Torah is the Mishnah. And only a person that has broad knowledge of the Mishnah is even qualified to have a debate. Today, every Joe Schmo wants to have a debate about Torah, even though he never finished the Shas once. In fact, most of them don't know what the Shas actually means, which for anyone who doesn't know, that's just a short acronym for the entire Gemara, all of the Masechtot. That's what the Shas means. Every Joe Schmo that just started watching shiur Torah in the last year or two wants to debate you about what you said and what you heard and what this and your understanding and his understanding and what God really means and what God doesn't mean. He's been watching shiur Torah for a few years. All of a sudden became Rashi. All of a sudden the Rambam should listen to him. The Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, page 42a, says, unless you have a broad knowledge, not a general knowledge, you know what you're talking about, you're Talmid Chacham, you know the Mishnah, you know the Torah, you know Tanakh, not just a couple of parashot because you're Bar Mitzvah, so you remember it by heart. You know the whole thing. Then you're qualified to have a debate with. Then you're qualified. Then we can talk. But until you know what you're talking about, stop going against rabbis. Stop going against Torah. Know where you stand, which is actually one of the other qualifications. It's critical for a person to know these things. Because if a person looks at things from that perspective, he's not going to waste much time with falsehood. He's going to constantly get to the emet. He's going to constantly get to the emet. He's not going to waste any time being offended. He's not going to be wasting any time chit-chatting about things that are nonsensical. He's going to constantly have a purpose for every single word that comes out of his mouth. And a person like that, of course he's going to have olam haba. Of course he's going to have a good life. Of course he's going to be fulfilled. Of course he's going to be happy. Of course his wife is going to be happy. Of course the kids are going to become Talmidei Chachamim. Why? They are acting in the same methods as Aborei Barach. They're acting in the same way as Hashem. They're emulating Hashem to the highest extent. Why? Hashem does not do anything without a purpose. If we start behaving that way, we don't say a single word that doesn't have a purpose. We don't have a single conversation that doesn't have a purpose. We don't go anywhere that doesn't have a purpose, at least not a positive one. We don't do anything that doesn't have a purpose. We're acting like Hashem. You've already won. Your world around you will change. That's the crown of Torah. Any questions?
Could you see that this guy who just recently been into the shiur that he went to, could you see that he just started taking kosher food?
Just started eating kosher food. I think that the most common sin that heretics have, people that go against the Torah have, most common one is they waste seed. Kosher food in our generation is very accessible and very affordable. Yes, it's a little more expensive than non-kosher food, but it's not like a world apart. You could still eat for $10 a whole meal. It's not like you have to be rich. In the old days, it was much more expensive, but today it's relatively cheap. And again, if you don't eat meat, it's even cheaper. But the reality is that to eat kosher food, relatively easy, and even people that don't keep Shabbat, most of them eat kosher food, at least when they're home. And even if somebody likes non-kosher food, they're not going to dafka not go to a non-kosher food section if they have kosher available to them. So it's not a sin that is addictive. Eating non-kosher food is not necessarily addictive to the same extent as physicality of wasting seed. as the Rambam says, is the most addictive sin in the entire Torah. One of the main reasons why it's addictive, aside from the physical aspect of it and the illusion of 5 seconds of pleasure, is that we're led to believe that it's normal human function, that you're actually supposed to do it. And there's some stupid psychologists and psychiatrists that actually put their name on fake research that say it's healthy. And even though it's been proven wrong, that it's not healthy for you, it's actually horrible for you, it kills you, and there's many scientific researchers that actually prove that it's terrible to waste seed and be promiscuous and so on, people still rely on the falsehood. It's the same thing as, for example, all these Darwinists, all these people that believe in the survival of the fittest theory. One of the main things that inflated the belief into evolution is one scientist about 100 years ago said that he was able to prove that the embryo of a human being is the same thing as an embryo of any other species. They all look the same. And he took pictures of the development of a human being, looks a little bit like a seahorse, a little like a lizard, and he took of a lizard, and it looks the same thing. He said, see, we used to come from lizards, and so on and so forth. So everybody's like, wow, the pictures, when you see the pictures, you're right, it looks exactly alike. It really does. What's the problem? It was all fake. All the pictures are fake. Now this has been proven. It's been proven that the research is fake. But over 100 years have passed. He's died already a long time ago. His research has been proven fake. He actually got sued and so on. But for 100 years already, over 100 years, his stuff is still in textbooks in schools today. It's still being taught till today. It's fake though. Don't let the truth get in the way of some fun, some sins. So this is a problem that people have. But the biggest problem of all is the fact that when people waste seed, they become spiritually stupid to such an extent that even if they sat here for 3 hours or 3 days, 99% of everything that I just said simply will enter and leave within the same instant. It just wouldn't register. It wouldn't register, at least not to the same extent as it does of someone at Shomer Brit. It makes a person spiritually stupid. Now, a person that's spiritually stupid also has spiritually stupid thoughts, and which make him into a heretic. They say things that are heretical, they do things that are heretical, they go against the Chachamim, which, by the way, one of the Chachamim says that was actually the reason why Jesus, Yimach Shemo V'Zichro, went against the Chachamim. He was a noef. He was a womanizer. And his spiritual status didn't start the way he was. He actually used to be a Chacham. He used to be a Talmid Chacham. But he became Rasha Merusha. Why? He liked being promiscuous. He liked going after women. And when you do such things, you make such sins against the Torah, it's little by little you become a heretic, and as soon as a rabbi tries to rebuke you, try to get you to do tshuva, and you're not willing to be a vessel of truth, what do? You declare war. Which is exactly what the Gemara in Masechet Gitin says that he did. He himself said it to Onkelos. They ask him, why are you in Gehenom? They asked Jesus, why are you in Gehenom? He says, because I went against the rabbis. I went against the rabbis. So usually the sin that's most common for men is wasting seed. For women, it's just a addiction to attention. Addiction to physicality, to materialism. People looking at her, and so on. And usually that's because there's no attention from the place they want. They may have a husband that's not paying attention to them, or perhaps they were hurt at some point and they're not willing to recommit. A lot of times it has to do with some type of issue that happened at some point. Not always necessarily traumatic, but just simply something went wrong at some point. Because a woman naturally should be modest. Because if you have any self-respect, as a woman, if you have any self-respect, and you believe that you're priceless, which you should, every human being should believe they're priceless. No one else in the world is like you. Hashem at one point decided that the world can't continue without you. You should feel priceless, not because of arrogance, because you're better than everybody else, but simply because the world can't exist without you, according to Hashem. So any woman that values herself as a priceless daughter of Hashem Yitbarach, naturally should know you don't throw priceless in the air and let everybody touch it. What are you, the garbage pail? Everybody touches the garbage pail. You don't ask the garbage man that comes to your house on Tuesdays and Thursdays, where'd you go to school? Who's your mom? I want to know who your mom is. No. Give me the phone number. I'm calling her right now. I want to know if she's really your mom. You don't do it. Where's your garbage guy? I want to know who's touching my garbage. I see you every Tuesday. I want to know who your mom is. You don't do that. Why? He's your garbage guy. You don't ask the mailman what's his background. I want to know who comes to my house every day, delivers mail. You don't. But everybody touches your mail. Why? It's worthless. It's garbage. Most of the time we don't want the mail that comes, even when it's bills. But the reality is, Rabotai, if you got a diamond, you got a priceless diamond, no one touches the diamond. No one even sees the diamond, except select person that it's meant for. A select individual, not individuals, not a room full of people, not a group, one person. One person it's meant for. A woman that values herself, knows that she's a diamond, she'll treat herself as a diamond, and not as a garbage pail that everybody touches, that everybody looks at, that everybody gets access to. Naturally, that's what she's supposed to do. Which means if she's not, something went wrong. Education went wrong. She was taught the opposite of the truth. She went to school to learn the truth. She learned lies. She expected the teachers, leaders, supervisors, rabbis, rebbitzins, whoever, to tell her truth. They told her the opposite. Or they told her the truth. She chose not to listen. She wanted to listen to the TV. She wanted to listen to Michelle Obama. She wanted to listen to Oprah Winfrey. She wanted to listen to some model that's more promiscuous than Hashem Yachem. She wanted to listen to her. Okay, something went wrong. You're going against what you're supposed to do. You're going against your natural instinct. Your natural instinct is to value yourself like you're priceless. Why don't you? There's something wrong. It's like knowing that the food that somebody just gave you has mold and poison in it and still eating it because you're hungry. There's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you. Of course you're hungry. Of course you have a desire. You have a desire for attention. But you're still not going to do it. Why? It's wrong. You have a desire for food. You're hungry. But you're still not going to eat it. There's poison in it. So we're not saying that the desire doesn't exist. The desire for attention doesn't exist. Desire for the pleasure that a person gets out of wasting seed doesn't exist. It exists. Of course it exists. You were created this way. But it doesn't mean you have to act on it. You're supposed to have some type of boundary. Of this is a line I don't cross. Why? It's too expensive. It's too expensive. It's crossing the line. It's going to the border of the enemy. It's not worth it. This, Rabotai, any woman that wants to have her husband appreciate her like she's the queen of the world, she'll preserve herself more than anything in the world. Why? Because a husband will only value a woman that values herself. If she doesn't value herself, she allows herself to be viewed by every average Joe. Every average Joe knows what her body looks like and doesn't look like. Every average Joe gets to touch. Every average Joe gets to do this and gets to do that. The husband eventually says, okay, I'm bored of this. Let me try something else. Or better yet, if you're allowing everybody else to look at you, he's going to allow himself to look at everybody else. Simple. What normal wife wants her husband to look at other women? Normal, not the abnormal ones that tell their husband, look at her, she's really good, right? She's really nice, right? They use different words. Right, she's really pretty, right? You're telling your husband to look at another woman. Do you know what goes in his mind when he looks at other women, or are you just stupid? Women simply don't understand what guys think. They think we're like, oh yeah, she's really, yeah, she has a nice personality. Yeah, she looks like she's funny. I bet she's really good at chess. She's probably really smart at Scrabble. What do you think guys think about? They don't think about personality. They don't. They simply don't. A woman tells a husband to look at another woman? Normal one doesn't. So if you don't want him to look anywhere else, you don't look anywhere else. You don't have anybody else looking at you. Make sure his eyes belong to you, your eyes belong to him. That way he knows he has a priceless diamond. A person that has a priceless diamond doesn't look at his next door neighbor's safe. He doesn't care. He doesn't care to think about his next door neighbor's safe. Doesn't care. Why? It's priceless. It's priceless. No one ever touched it. No one ever knows about it. No one ever looked at it. It's priceless. That's what you're supposed to do. Not only according to the Torah, to your creation, how you were created, which means that anyone that's immodest, anyone that's fiending for attention, anyone that's doing dafka things to get attention because of immodesty, something went wrong. The point of a shiur like this is to undo that, rewire our brain, rewire our kids' brain, rewire our friends' brain by saying, listen, think about it for a second. Aren't you like the best? Don't you think of yourself as the best? Don't you think of yourself as somebody special? Don't you want people to value like you're somebody special? You do, right? Then treat yourself like you're special. Treat yourself like you're special. Not a garbage pail. Not male. Not the village bicycle. Any more analogies you need? Good. Patul. We fulfilled our quota. Any else? Yeah. Good. Good. Studying Torah. Studying is in general just a certain, it's a practice. Actually studying, just studying, just not thinking that you're just going to get it just by sitting there and waiting for divine information to appear in your head because you're a nice guy. So studying is actually taking. Now in regards to the Mishnah and the Mikra, is to never think that you could just study the Mishnah and you'll be fine. Or just study the Tanakh and you'll be fine. Just study one thing. The oral Torah comes with the written Torah. This is the problem of the Christians, by the way, or all the other heretics that go against the Torah, is they choose just the written Torah. They choose just the written Torah, and they say that the oral Torah is by rabbis who don't know what they're talking about, and so on and so forth. So here we're learning that without having both, you're simply not going to get to the truth on a regular basis. You may arrive at the truth by accident. You may arrive at the truth occasionally by accident, but as a general statement, you're going to arrive at a falsehood. Because we simply do not think like God. It's not similar thinking. As Hashem says to the prophet, I don't think like you. My thoughts are not your thoughts. This is the problem that most people have today because they try to humanize God. So they think that God thinks with the same logic that they do. God doesn't think with the same logic we do. His logic is not comprehensible to us. We see a one-dimensional picture. He sees the entire thing. But for him, the beginning, the middle, and the end are all happening at the same time. Whereas for us, the past is a memory, the future is an idea, and the present is what we think is a reality. For him, it's all reality. It's all at the same time. So, the Torah comes with, there's an oral part, there's a written part, and they both need each other. One without the other, you simply won't survive. Just the written Torah, like the Karaites, no good. Just like some people, for example, that just focus on studying only one aspect of the oral Torah. For example, a lot of people like to study Halacha only. They like to study only a Shulchan Aruch or some halachic book. No good. Why no good? Yeah, you'll know the laws, but you don't know how to behave. You need to learn Mussar. You don't know how to get to the law. You don't learn Gemara. You don't know Midrash. You don't know the... you can't just learn Halacha. Same thing some people say you should study Zohar. Yes, Zohar is very good to study after you've covered everything else, first of all. And second of all, as part of a study regimen, once you've covered everything else. But anyone that says to just study the Zohar, mistake. It's against the Torah. Anyone that says just to study one thing of anything, it's a mistake. There's a study regimen. Our Torah has several different facets. You have the written Torah, you have the oral Torah. The written Torah is extensive. You have an entire Tanakh. The oral Torah is even more extensive. You have different aspects of it. You have Halacha, you have Mussar, you have Midrashim, you have Gemarot, you have Mishnayot, and so on and so forth. So it's a huge Torah. So the point of this specific aspect of the Torah is to tell us that it all goes together. It's all one package, and you have to delve into each one of them at specific times. Is it time for this? 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 Don't just think, oh, I'm just going to read the Midrash and that's it forever. You have to do everything. And that's it's important. Still Hashem? What else?
When the sages say to study the Torah, they entail studying both oral and written Torah.
Ken.
So does that mean that one can study Torah yet get to a point that don't have the knowledge of the Torah at some point? Because some people mention both studying Torah and then knowledge of the Torah.
If I understand your question, in order to progress with your Torah, you have to study different aspects of it. So for example, if you just study the weekly parasha every week, but that's your studying, that's it. Then next year you're going to study the weekly parasha again, and you'll have new insights about the same parasha. And the next year again, you'll study the weekly parasha, and you'll have new insights about the parasha that you didn't have the previous 2 years. But even though you're getting new insights every year from the same parasha, you're not getting anywhere near as much impact from that parasha had you been studying other things as well. Because every time you start studying other things, you now have new tools that affect your neshama in different ways. And new understandings of certain things that were said that you're not going to get any other way. So, yes, if a person limits their Torah, they're eventually going to hit a wall that their progress is virtually non-existent. I see this very often with people that focus solely on halacha. A lot of Batei Knesset that I've gone to, there's always a group of guys that study halacha, but only halacha. And every time it's almost like clockwork, not a single one of them knows how to behave like a human being. As soon as they leave the Bet Knesset, they're all animals, cheaters, liars. They know how to keep Shabbat like the best of them. They know how to build a sukkah like they're in Mount Sinai. They know the halachot of the etrogim. They go look at the etrog with the magnifying glass and that. And the etrog is the best of the best. Neshama, rotten potatoes though. Why? They don't know how to behave. They don't know a lot of other things. So you can't just pick one thing. It has to be multiple things. And as you build, you'll see that it's something that each year, if you're learning the right way, you should literally view yourself from just the one previous year as almost like a different person. Not almost, really, like a different person. That's how much progress there is. From year to year, it doesn't matter how many years you've been studying. There's a huge, huge milestone achieved every year as you acquire more and more knowledge, more and more information. There's actually also physical aspects of it, spiritual aspects of it, life aspects of it. So Hashem, we'll go over the other aspects of the 48 kinyanim, and we'll talk about some of the other things as well. Anything else? We said that Tomorrow night we have a shiur in Miami. I got it right. Saturday Ishmael. Even for that, you have to get right. I have 50% chance, but still. Who said the 50% I was right? It's all Hashem. Baruch Adonai leolam. Amen ve'amen.